Chuck, are you recording on your end, or did you want to
I
use?
am.
You
We've
are.
never been balanced. We're always unbalanced.
That
You
is
know
true.
that.
That is true. And
Yep.
that is why we are constantly coming back to the For Dummies people. Um, okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that what we have here, what we're recording right now, is the backup recording. I just want to make sure that it's all balanced on your end.
Yep.
And what we're going to be doing, chat, is we're going to be recording what will be the first 4 episodes of Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast, season 4. And you're going to see on this stream, if you hang out on this stream, you're going to see all of this, the banter, the unedited, the pretty much rough and ready T. Morris and Chuck Tomasi. And then when you subscribe to the podcast, whether you subscribe to it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or on Overcast, I'm trying to remember all the ones that we wrote about. Stitcher,
Amazon, Google,
Amazon,
Stitch.
all that
There's
stuff. Yeah. You're going to see this in 30-minute edited bites. So you can either watch it raw and unedited, and the idea is if you watch it raw and unedited with us right now in Twitch, Sharky, good to see you. Sam, good to see you as well. Sun, as always, hi. This is where you get to interact with us, and this is the first time we've ever done this, where we've actually opened the recording session to the general public, and this I think is going to be a lot of fun. So anyway,
it folds into what we're talking about in the book
Yes.
and in the podcast.
Yes.
Is this marriage, this very fine partnership between podcasting and streaming.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we're doing it.
We're doing it. We're doing it
making our
right
own
here.
champagne.
Right here, right now. So the first episode, just so you all know, the first episode is going to basically be a catch-up episode of, and also for you all watching right now on Twitch, an Ask Me Anything session, whether it's for Chuck, whether it's for me, that's going to be basically going to be what this episode is all about. Okay, so Chuck, are you all set?
I've got the stopwatch ready, so we'll know how long each of these segments are. We can cut ourselves off or keep them going.
I will do that.
Raw and unedited, people. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, this is gonna be fun. Okay, let me get my own timer set up here. All right. Actually,
Very meta, though. We're kind of doing a podcast about podcasting. Normally
on Twitch.
Yeah.
On Twitch, that makes it even better.
Wild
All right,
West.
here we go. Okay, in 3, 2. Welcome back, everybody. It is the 4th season, because there's a 4th edition of Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast. I am your host, T. Morris, and joining me,
I'm Chuck Tomasi.
it has been not that long as a gap between book 2 and book 3. It's only been a tiny gap, but man, there's been a lot of things that have changed. Chuck, how are you? How have you been in this downtime between editions?
These unusual times. Well, it gave us a lot more time in front of the desk to write.
No kidding. No kidding.
Business travel going on.
And of course, when I say downtime, for those of you who are into podcasting, you know that downtime is a relative term. Yeah, it's been a crazy time here with what's going on with COVID-19 and with everything just changing, people coming in, people staying in. But one of the things that has changed for the better, I think, is the interest in podcasting. It feels like there are more people that are wanting to get into what is now the sheesh term, content creation. And podcasting, it's funny when I hear people say, yes, I've been a content creator for 5 years. I'm like, well, F you, I've been a content creator for 15 years.
Nobody uses the new media term anymore.
Nobody uses new media. Remember that? It was bad enough we had. Is it a podcast? No, it's a netcast. Is it? It's a webcast. It's a webcast. Yes.
Yeah.
New media. Ooh. Now I have a theory about that, Chuck, and track with me. You remember all those conversations. And for those of you who are watching on the stream, yes, we are now streaming these episodes. So if you catch on http// I don't know why I threw in the / twitch.tv. I know I am an old man. Look, I ran a marathon. I ran a half marathon this morning. I don't think all the brain cells have quite recovered yet. I know my legs haven't.
He comes back and does a marathon stream and podcast thing.
because I'm an idiot. So yeah, so if you go to twitch.tv/the T Monster, you will see us recording these episodes live, where we get a chance to take your questions in real time in the chat room. For those of you who are in the chat room, thank you very much for being here. We're gonna wax philosophic for just a moment about some of the history behind podcasting, or what is now known, which is now considered one of the arms of content creation. That seems to be the catchphrase now. It's content creation, but back in the day, it was known as new media. I think that was what it was. There was portable media, new media.
Yeah, portable and new media. Expo.
Portable and new media. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. But would you say, Chuck, that the reason why nobody uses the term new media more is because, and I do remember this, trad media, or old media? Yeah, trad media. Do you like that one?
What does that, was an acronym for something?
No, trad, because nobody wants to say traditional, so it's trad media, right?
Oh, well, that one got by me, and I'm glad.
It's like web celebrity. When I was writing Discord for Dummies, I had a note from my technical editor, a guy by the name of Dan Finity. His name is at twitch.tv/DanFinity. And he said to me point blank in the notes, never use the word web celebrity in my presence ever. He was so, I'll sometimes go on and go, hey, Dan, aren't you going to welcome this web celebrity T Monster? And he boots me. He boots me out of the fire team.
Not like you have a speech impediment when you say that.
I know,
word.
right? It's a web celebrity. Elma Fudd. My name is Elma Fudd, and I'm a web celebrity. So
Wait to come to my webinar.
it's on Womb. So anyway, would you say the reason why nobody uses the term new media is because
Because it's not new.
Well, no, I was going to say it was because traditional media, and remember at the talk where people were saying, oh, podcasting is going to crash down the doors of trad media and traditional media and old school media. Now you log on, and who is it that's producing the podcasts? NBC, Discovery Channel, ABC, CB. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that is part of it? Is the reason why nobody uses the term new media? One, it isn't new, but also two, it's because traditional media kind of was like, we need to figure this out.
Yeah, it's an extension of, it's another avenue, it's another channel, and those of us that produce the content know that if you want to get the reach, you got to have more channels.
Right.
Whether it's how many directors you're listed on for your podcast, or if you're doing a newsletter, you should also be doing a podcast, or vice versa. So it's a way to reach your audience, whether that's customers, clients, partners, vendors. It's all that and more. You are your own marketing campaign at this point.
Right.
I mean, if you get into podcasting, you're going to learn something about marketing, whether you like it or not.
Whether you wanted it or not, you have stepped into a war with marketing execs. I mean, I think in the years that you and I have been, so just to put it in perspective, chat, Technorama went live when?
May 1st, 2005.
2005. And I went live with Moravia in January of 2005. So
yeah.
So
I do have one property that predates that by a few months.
So. And what was that? What was that?
That was originally just called Chuck Chat, but it broke off and became Freestyle and Technorama 3-4 months later.
Right.
And so I tell people I've been podcasting since December of 2004.
Yeah.
Which puts me in the old school. You're in the old school.
Oh, I'm in the old school too. No. I mean, in fact, I still remember when I got the original email from my agent, and she said, does anybody out there know anything about this thing called podcasting? And I was in the middle of podcasting my fantasy novel, and I said, I might know a thing or two about it. And at that time, we signed on, we being me and Evo Terra, signed on to do the first edition of Podcasting for Dummies. Then in 2008, the second edition came out. That was when Chuck came on board. And then there was this weird gap. There was this really weird gap. And it was like I want to say nearly 10 years. And I started getting royalty checks for this nearly 10-year-old tech book. So I call up Chuck and I go, Chuck, have you noticed anything about podcast? And I didn't realize this. Chuck was not getting royalty checks. Chuck had just been hired to come on, and he got paid a flat rate.
Yeah.
Well, we changed that for the third edition, just so you know. We did change that for the third edition, but
and it's working.
And it is working. Yes, it is working. But Chuck said, "Wait, you're getting royalty checks? T, the book is nearly 10 years old." I'm like, "I know." So I then got in touch with Steve. That's actually Steve Hayes. He is our editor at our chief editor at
Wonderful guy.
Well, super duper guy. And Steve was like, "It's funny you should say this because we started to notice that more copies of this 10-year-old book were flying off the shelves." And we were like, "Do you think it's time we updated the book?" And we were like, "Yes." Sweet Jesus, yes.
Yeah. From a technical standpoint, it made sense. From a financial standpoint, it made sense. So,
yeah.
If your ducks are in a row, shoot them.
Yeah. And the thing is, when the third edition of Podcasting for Dummies came out, apparently it was one of the biggest Renaissance titles that they've ever had in the history of the For Dummies history, which is pretty humbling when you think about all the different For Dummies books that have been out there. And now we're here. We're here on the fourth edition. But what have you been doing with yourself, Chuck? What have you been doing with yourself since the third edition? What's the podcast you're working on? What is it that you're doing? That sort of thing.
It's a big gray blur between home fun and work fun. It is. Since 2017, I have taken on a new role at our organization as a developer advocate. So I really get to exercise my technical skills and my production skills. I'm creating more content now than I have ever created before. The studio does not sit idle for more than a day.
Right.
Because I'm constantly doing something in here. Sunday night is Technorama. Monday and Thursday is a community live stream for work. Tuesday is a webinar. Wednesday is recording another podcast for fun. Friday is, I can't remember what Friday is. We do something on Friday. Saturday is a live karaoke session that I do. And then it's Sunday again. So there's always something going on. It's always fun, either preparing or executing on that content. I've launched a new podcast for work, so I can officially say I am podcasting for money. I mean, I'm getting paid to podcast. So that has worked out really well. We launched a new podcast in August of 2020. I work for a company called ServiceNow. We do enterprise software workflow management, and it is a platform that you can build applications on. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. Some of you who are listening know a deeper story than that. I'd be happy to share that with anyone who wants to listen. And I engage with our developers and our product managers. So I'm in this spot where I get to advocate, evangelize, entertain, you name it. If it starts with the letter E, I'm probably doing that in some way or shape or form between our product managers and our customers and our partners. So there's a lot of people out there building, and I'll show them everything from this crazy script idea to higher conceptual architecture. So and bringing that to a live stream is a whole lot of fun because it gives you a whole new skill set about thinking on your feet and interacting with nobody, really. I mean, it's one thing to present to a room. It's another thing to present to a camera.
Yeah.
So it's got a whole different skill set in there. And when you're the only one, like here, Tia and I can talk to each other, but when you're talking to yourself and you're looking at a chat every once in a while going, geez, I hope someone makes a comment. It's a whole lot.
And that's going to be a topic for another time. We will actually have an entire show about podcasting, streaming, content creating to an audience of nobody, because it is something I don't think people think about when it comes to working with podcasting and with actually going live with your podcast. I actually was telling someone about, I was evangelizing streaming to another podcaster, and he said, I can't do it. And I said, why? And he said, because I don't want to start over again. I don't want to start at ground zero. I don't want to start with an audience of zero. I said, dude, that's your ego talking. And you got to check that at the door and just dive in. Because that's what I've been doing.
Are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for them?
Right.
That's
exactly
really what it comes down to.
Exactly. And since we were talking about marketing, Chuck, what is the title of said podcast you do for fun?
For fun, I do one called Technorama. You can find that at chuckchat.com. I also do one with co-host from Technorama, Craig Stepp, and Clinton Alvord from Comedy Forecast. Here, I can help out with the bells here.
There you go.
It's a virtual bell, but it works nonetheless.
Right.
We do a show called The Topic is Trek. That's every other Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it comes out on Fridays. I
Right,
don't know
right,
when.
right,
Uh,
right.
that you can guess from the title, it's all about Star Trek.
Right.
Technorama is really a nerd fun show.
It is.
Science, sci-fi, geek humor. It's not off color, so it's
No.
a very
It's very family friendly. It's very family
and
friendly.
you might learn something. You might, some famous person's birthday,
Yeah.
Nobel Prize.
I would describe it as a nerd schoolhouse rock. That's the best way to describe Technorama. It's the nerd schoolhouse rock, and it what was that?
I'm stealing that.
Feel free. So as for myself, I have when we were at the 3rd edition, I started a brand new podcast called Happy Hour from the Tower. For those folks who are regulars in here, you all know that Happy Hour from the Tower is a Destiny themed podcast. It is the first time I've ever done a gaming podcast, and the three of us, being myself, Nick Kelly, and Brandon Kelly, the three of us get together and we talk about the video game Destiny. And I also do with my wife the Shared Desk, and that's the co-writing podcast that we do together, and we talk about that. Real quick, I want to say you're welcome, Starman 8000. I'm not sure what for. I'm assuming it is for the writing of books like Twitch for Dummies and Podcasting for Dummies, and you're welcome. If you got it, and really, if anybody has any questions about podcasting, where we're going with this, what we're starting up here, what do we have to look for in the 4th edition? A lot of the stuff we're going to be covering in later episodes, but we don't mind touching on it. Actually, Starman just
side note when you're talking about that. I had a rather interesting encounter on Friday night. This past Friday, we were having a ServiceNow developer meetup for all of our developers in Texas.
Right.
Wonderful turnout. And we were giving away door prizes for the most interesting question. And one guy snuck this one in. He said, "What kind of microphone are you using?" Had nothing to do with developer questions. Which one? I've got one in front of my face. I've got a shotgun off camera. I've got a lavalier sitting down there. Has a different mics for different things. I could talk to you for an hour just on microphones. But
oh yeah,
hey,
we both could.
Yeah.
It's all there. It's all there. So
we're getting to that. We are going to talk microphones.
We are going to talk microphones right now. The first four episodes are we're getting our feet wet. We're reacquainting ourselves with the audience, because remember, it has been roughly 3 years since season 3, and so Starman just told me that he apparently finished. I'm assuming he finished Twitch for Dummies. Again, thank you. Starman's going to read Discord for Dummies tonight. Again, thank you. And you're doing your first live. And Starman's doing their first live stream today. So good luck.
Outstanding.
Good luck. Good luck. Wow, he said he read it all last night at work. That's a hardcore. And here's the thing: as a writer, I've heard that where people will read a book in a night. And I'm not one of those people. I think the most I've ever done is I've in one sitting I probably did like 60 or 70 pages, and that's literally because not because I couldn't put the book down. I did not want to put the book down. It was John Scalzi's Red Shirts, which if you guys have never had a discussion on the Topic is Trek about red shirts, let me know when you have that conversation. I would love to come on and be a part of that. That would be a blast. And yes, Sam, there is a Discord for Dummies. Again, written by yours truly. As a matter of fact, you'll get a kick out of this. So I was talking with Evo. Terra about he wanted to find out more about streaming. He wanted to find out more about how we can incorporate this. And I'm talking about Discord and he's going, "Can you do that here? Can you do this? Can you?" And I just said, "Well, Evo, I could recommend a book called Discord for Dummies." He starts laughing. He goes, "Did you write that one too?" And I went, "Yeah." So for everybody who has I will say though, real quick, one more quick tangent. The thing about being an author though is this is what you have to. If you ever have the chance to get your book published and get it out there to the public, it's awesome. Just mentally prepare yourself for this one thing. You will spend 6 months, 8 months, and in the case of fiction, maybe even 18 months editing, brushing up, working on that very first novel. And some Yahoo will come up at a science fiction convention and go, "I read your book in 3 days. Here's what's wrong with it."
Be ready.
Yeah, you just be ready for that. Just be ready for that. And as far as nonfiction goes, especially when we're writing tech, that's the beauty of what we're doing right here. You know, having an open conversation, opening it up to the public, because I'm the first one to tell you, if you are enjoying Twitch for Dummies, thank you. Thank you. Namaste, bitches. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. That being said, I know I'm going to be the first one to tell you there's a lot that has changed between January 2019 and October 2020 in Twitch. So,
Yeah.
so you know, and that's the thing that Chuck and I also touched on. We know as soon as the book is out, there's going to be stuff that has changed. So what we try to do is we try to do podcasts, we try to do a stream. We're trying to do everything to keep the book relevant without trying too hard to make it relevant. And one of the ways we're doing that,
Yeah, we got the blog, and now we've got
Right.
Discord channels.
right? We got Discord channels as well. And I love the fact, Starman, that you took notes. Thank you very much. That's also intimidating as crap. Thank you again very much. But thank you, Bell Smart, for the shout out about Discord for Dummies. I do appreciate that as well. But that's what I have been doing in between podcasting for Dummies and the third edition and the fourth edition. Fourth edition, we actually do a very quick dive, not a deep dive. That's Twitch for Dummies. But in the fourth edition of Podcasting for Dummies, we go into a quick dive into streaming. Streaming, in my opinion, has, and I cleared this with Chuck before we started going in there, but we basically took out everything about video podcasting and we put streaming in its place, because we really found there is a marriage. There is a beautiful marriage between streaming and podcasting. And even and it is kind of backpedaling, because in the third edition we were like, look, young whippersnappers, if you're streaming, you're not podcasting. Now we're like,
Don't have an RSS feed. You don't have a podcast.
exactly.
You know?
We drew that line in the sand. We were like, we will go no further. Now we're like, yeah, you're
Hey,
podcasting.
times
Times change.
Habits
Old
change.
dog, new tricks. Ran a half marathon today. Back off. Anyway. But
One of the questions that we had when we were discussing this prior, we got together last week and said, hey, what do we want to talk about? And one of the things we wanted to tell you is why we do what we do.
yeah, and it's the same thing about what we do when we're streaming. Along with a shared desk, along with Happy Hour from the Tower, I have been building a stream, and I'm the first one to say it's not a huge stream. I'm not pulling in the Pokimane, the Dr. Lupo, or the ninja numbers. I know that, and honestly, I don't care. I love doing this. I love podcasting. I love streaming. I love the process of content creation. And it's something that I know that Chuck and I have talked about repeatedly in Podcasting for Dummies. I think that the most you'll hear us talk about in a word that begins with P outside of podcasting and Podcasting for Dummies is passion. So where does that passion come from for you, Chuck?
Mine comes from learning and sharing. That it always has been there. If I look back on my entire life, not just my career, but going back into grade school, I was always passionate about learning something. And if I knew something that I felt was valuable to others, I would share it. In school, it was through secret messages and coded messages with my geek friends, or I remember one instance in 5th grade, we were learning Cartesian coordinates and most of the class wasn't getting it. And the teacher couldn't get her point across. She said, what, is there someone who could help explain this? And I raised my hand and I went up to the whiteboard. I think that was my first public presentation at a tender age. Yeah. So the class got it. So I went, hey, there might be something here. Well, obviously I wasn't podcasting back in the 70s, but that same thread comes through every day. When I learn something new on our software platform, I make a note. I go, hey, that's future content. That's something I can either use as a tip or a full-blown episode or something. There's something in there. Why I do that, and same kind of thing with Podcasting for Dummies. We are not the people you're going to see at these big podcast conventions.
No.
For whatever reason, they just never asked us. And frankly, that's okay, because there's no conventions right now anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, but we do this. We said we're going to do a 4th edition because it's time to refresh. It's doing well. We want to make sure that those who are interested We didn't know COVID was coming when we first started this whole venture earlier in 2020, but it worked out well. And we want to make sure that the people who are interested in starting a podcast have that latest and greatest information at their fingertips. Because, like you said, a lot has changed since 2017. Not as much as the 9-year gap before that, but it makes sense to get you the latest information. And depending on when you're listening to this, the book will be out November 3rd, 2020. If it's already out, thank you very much for going and checking it out in your favorite bookstores or online services.
So remember, on November 3rd, if you haven't done it early, go vote. And then go out to your local bookstore and pick up a copy of Podcasting for Dummies. There you go.
I want to see someone with a picture in line while they're waiting to vote.
Oh, and they're reading Podcasting for Dummies. That would be dope. That would be so dope. So as far as I'm concerned, when I got into this, my reason for podcasting was originally done. Are there Dutch? Oh, Belsmart asks, are there Dutch translations? Ooh, that's a good question. We will have to ask like how many languages the Dummies books get translated into, because it's the For Dummies line, and they are very strict about how they handle the branding of it. I mean, I've never seen a For Dummies title like translated into French or translated into German. I'd love to, but I would. We'll have to get back to you on that one, Belsmart. That's a good question. But the main reason I do what I do, when I first started doing Moravia, I literally did it as a marketing stunt. I did it because I had a sequel coming out, and I said, you know what? I'm going to podcast a novel from chapter to chapter, and then we'll see what happens. And then I suddenly found out this is kind of fun. So then I started doing the Survival Guide to Writing Fantasy. And then I started to find out I'm doing this as a celebration. I've always been that kind of geek. If I find something that I love doing, I want to share that joy with the world, which is why when I see when we do the shared desk, it's a celebration of writing with my wife, writing in general, just creating worlds with words. And then with Podcasting for Dummies, it really was, hey, look, let's take the book to the next level. And with Happy Hour from the Tower, it is 3 knuckleheads, and usually we drag in a 4th friend who has been into Destiny, and we go, so what did you do that was cool today? And it was really interesting because in the last episode of Happy Hour, we started talking about the accessibility of the game, because the special guest we had is legally blind. Mm-hmm. And so he looked at Destiny, pardon the pun, he looked at Destiny from an accessibility point of view. But then the second half of the show kind of went on this weird tangent about the gaming industry, and how we're worried that the gaming industry is suffering from burnout, or will suffer from burnout, because they're constantly demanding content. And it's like, look, when you start creating content just for content's sake, and for those of you who love this game, mazel tov, but you get a game like Fortnite, where they start creating content for content's sake, and the content is no longer meaty, or it just feels like hollow content. Yeah. And really, what was funny about that was that like 2 days after that show went live, PC Gamer ran an article about the harsh reality of game development, and they were talking about exactly what we were talking about 2 days prior. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And so, with podcasting, for me, it's always been about celebrating the joy of something. So, Starman, you say you're nervous. Don't be. If you are passionate, if you believe in what you're doing, if your heart's in it, the audience will pick up on it, and eventually they will find you. That doesn't mean you can't market. That doesn't mean you can't go on social media, talk about when episodes go live. I do it all the time. So does Chuck. And it's something that you have to do when you start to get into this. And we're going to talk about that in the next episode. Where we're going to try to answer that question. So you want to start a podcast. Where do you begin? That's going to be our next episode. But right now, we need to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us for this first episode of the 4th season of Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast. We appreciate you being here. Remember, you can be part of the fun by coming to every recording session that we do at HTTP. I don't have to do HTTP. At twitch.tv. At twitch.tv/the T-Monster. You can also drop us voicemail, a WhatsApp message, if you will, at 703-791-1701. You can also go to podcastingfordummies.com and drop us something in the comments, a note or anything like that. Just reach out and talk to us. We would love to talk back. So on behalf of Chuck, thank you very much. From all of us here at Imagine That Studios, pod on. And we're clear, and that's episode 1. We're still going to be here. We got 3 more episodes to record, so just everybody hang out. And your
audio broke up a little bit on my end towards just as you were reading off the credits. So
okay.
We may have to merge recordings or something.
Yeah, I will go on ahead and send you the backup. Where I will strip the audio from this, and we'll do that.
Perfect.
So yeah, Starman. If you're starting in 15, good luck, and just have just have fun. Just have fun. And Sharky, thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. Bell Smart, as always, we appreciate it. But that's the first show. Now we're going to do another show. So here's a question that before we get started. Did we want, when we post the show, we could either post the full? Oh yeah, there's more. There's more, Sharky. Oh, we're not done with you yet.
Here comes the fire hose.
Yeah. So do we want to just post on YouTube like one giant video and then we just use the same video for the 4 shows? Or do you want me to like take the video, pull it into a video editor and just chop it up into 4 separate segments? Then we upload each segment and then we have like
will be a little easier to consume.
Done.
And then we'd have to do 4 posts instead of 1. Or were you thinking of posting the same thing 4 times?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. That
got clean demarcations of where one ends and one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, chat, remember, if you have any questions about what we're specifically talking about, do not be shy. Feel free to chime in. And also, let's make this also a hard and fast rule here. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Not on this channel. Not on this channel. I mean, to me, it's more stupid if you don't ask a question. You've got the author of Podcasting for Dummies here. You got the author of Podcasting for Dummies, Twitch for Dummies, Discord for Dummies right here. Now, if your questions are about
like 30 years of experience just with 2 people.
30 years of experience for 2 people, yeah. Now I've told this story before, but I'll go on ahead and tell it again. I didn't want to put it in the podcast because it is a little indulgent, but it's one of the funniest stories I've ever had in podcasting. So there was and this goes back to the things that Chuck and I are never invited to, because this guy, it was this real slicky dude coming in, and he was talking about all the cool things we could do from a marketing perspective, and he started talking about podcasting, and I really had to just keep my mouth shut, because in the room with us was the CEO of where I was working, and he had a podcast. He wouldn't let me touch it. He wouldn't let me touch it. And it was a mess. Terrible show art, terrible description. It was buried in the wrong section in iTunes. That was the only place it was listed. And on top of that, and this is in 2015, chat, and he was doing the RSS by hand.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Why?
But I don't know. All I can tell you is when I came on, I said, I see you guys have a podcast, but it needs some work. Would you like, and before I could even finish the sentence, my boss literally closed the door and said, T, I know your experience. I know you're the author of Podcasting for Dummies, but you got to hear me right now. Don't ever mention that to Dr. Schertz. Don't ever do. And I'm like, what? And he was like, T, the podcast is his. We tried to help him with it. Someone nearly got fired. And I'm like, the hell? So the Slicky Boy's talking about it, and that's when Schertz leans back and goes, yeah, I got a podcast. I'm sitting there going, too bad nobody knows where it is. But I just, I kept my mouth shut But this guy's talking.
It's a different world in the corporate land than
Yes,
it
it
is
is. Very
in this
different.
private sector that we've got out here.
So this slicky dude's doing his podcast, song and dance, and then Dr. Shirts leaves for a moment, and I turn to the guy and I go, so you're into podcasting, and the guy leans back and looks at me with a smirk, and he goes, yeah, I'm a long time podcaster. I said, how long have you been podcasting? I've been podcasting for about 4 years now. 4 years. I'm a veteran. And I just went, that's cool. And he just said to me, he went, do you podcast? And I go, I know a thing or two about it. And then he says, so how long have you been at it? And I went, I've been at it for about 10 years now. I was I was the first guy to podcast a novel from cover to cover. And I'm one of the 2 authors behind Podcasting for Dummies. And he's just staring at me. And without even taking, it was like a David Attenborough. Don't take your eyes off the prey. That is when they will sense weakness. And he's doing this. He just reaches into his coat pocket and he pulls out a card of an event that's coming up. And he goes, would you like to speak at our event? And I just looked at the card and went, I'll be in touch. I wound up.
No, we're not trying to be snobbish about this at all.
We are not.
Podcasting is one of the most congenial, friendly communities.
Inclusive, very inclusive. Yeah. Look, if you want to do a Godcast, you can do a Godcast. If you want to do a show about the backstage life of being an exotic dancer, you can do that. I mean, they're all it's across the entire spectrum, and that's what we're going to talk. And the biggest question we get is, I don't know if why would I want to start a podcast? Because there's perfect example. There are dozens of podcasts about Star Trek. Why would I want to start one? And that's what we're going to do in the next episode. All right. So we all set?
We all set.
All right. Hang on. All right. Starting in 3. Oh wait, Chuck, do you want to bring us in on this one?
I gotta remember what the intro spiel was. It's been so
well,
long.
It's that boppy music. When you hear it, we got themes and all that. Right. Sets the tone. And I'll make sure.
We'll get into theme music in another episode.
Right. But Chuck, what I'll do is I will send you the music for it just to make sure you have it. And let's see. So what I'll do is I'll send you that, and but no, it's just the podcasting for Dummies, a companion podcast with your host T. Morris and Chuck Tomasi, and then you just bring us in. So that's it. All right. So here we go. This is going to be episode 2. Chuck's bringing us in 3, 2.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Podcasting for Dummies, Season 4 companion podcast. My name is Chuck Tomasi, and joining me is none other than
T. Morris. How you doing, everybody? But if you're on my Twitch stream right now, you know me as T. You know me as T Monster. You can also call me Twitch Dad. Welcome, everybody. It is a pleasure to have you all here. And go for it.
So we are just launching. This is one of our pre-season shows, I guess you'd call it. The book is not out as we record this. So.
You're right. Oh, that's right. I forgot how we were posting it.
Warming you up.
Just warming you up. Just warming you up, baby. Just warming you up.
Because once the book is out, we want to give you content ideas about what's in each one of those chapters. But there's a lot to be said before we even get to that point. And one of them is, hey, why do I want a podcast? Or I'm thinking about starting a podcast. You're having that internal discussion with you, or maybe you're talking about it with some friends, or, we should really, one of these days, we should start a podcast.
And especially now with some people still taking lockdown to a next level where they're just like, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the house. What do I do? And it seems like a lot of people now turning to podcasting as something.
You know why? This did not dawn on me until years after I'd started.
Okay.
Podcasting is a social network.
Yeah, that is true.
At its core, it really is. You are reaching massive amount, or you have the potential to reach massive amounts of people. I get chills every time I'm reminded that somebody in Belgium or Sydney or is listening and says, "Hey, I listened to your show." And first I say, "Which one?"
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. So first rule, when you say, why would I want to start a podcast? First, just change the question. Why do you want to start podcasting? And we'll
Better.
leave it at that. We'll
Yep.
leave it at that. I'll tell you a story about that though, Chuck. We were walking, we being me and Pip Ballantyne. Now, then she was just Pip. She wasn't my awesome wife. She was just one of my best buds, Pip Ballantyne. And we're walking through that breezeway between the Atlanta Marriott and the Atlanta Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
That overpass. Remember cons? Remember when we would go to cons? Yeah, good
Don't
times.
mind me.
Anyway, so we were going from this was a Dragon Con. That's the other thing. And just to paint the scene for everybody, Dragon Con is an event that gets about 70 to 80,000 people spread across, now I believe it's 6 hotels.
5 or 6 maybe.
Yeah,
Hotels.
but there are 3 main hotels in this hub. There's the Atlanta Hyatt, the Atlanta Marriott, and the Atlanta Hilton, or as I like to call it, the Contemporary Resort. In reverse order, the Hilton is the Contemporary Resort. The the Marriott is Logan's Run. If you remember the carousel scene in Logan's Run, that is the Marriott. And then finally you've got the Hyatt. And the Hyatt, it just, the only way I can describe it is a wretched hive of scum and villainy, because man, they cram a lot of people in that Hyatt, and the Hyatt was never made for that sort of capacity.
I would call the Westin now the zombie apocalypse, because it's all concrete.
It's a bunker.
It's a bunker.
It's a bunker. And the last time, but so anyway, so what happened was that Pip and I are going through a breezeway that's connecting the Marriott and the Hilton, and we're just chatting away, and suddenly, and this was Pip's first ever Dragon Con, and out of the blue, somebody just shouts at the top of their lungs, "Oh my God, Pip Ballantyne!" And we freeze, turn around, and this woman comes running up to us, and she goes, "I love Chasing the Bard. It was so good." And she's like, "How did you recognize me?" Yeah, and she's like, "How did you recognize me?" "I would know that voice from anywhere." And I'm like, okay, now it's getting a little weird. But that's the life of a podcaster. Yeah, I recognize that voice from anywhere. So
and then when you take it to streaming or you've got a video presence, it gets even more fun.
It does.
I was on the Star Trek Cruise 3. It was like the first night. We're just sailing out of port, and I'm walking down the deck. I have absolutely no branding on me that would say where I work, who I am. I don't even think my name badge wasn't out or anything.
Right.
And this couple walks past us, and about 3 seconds after they passed, I hear, "Service now!" I'm like, okay, if there's only one reason somebody would yell that on a cruise, and it's not to start a fire.
Oh, that's great.
You do a 180. I'm like, "What?" He says, "You're the guy who does the videos." I'm like, well, that's includes about 1.7 million other people.
Yeah.
And he recognized me. So I did the needful, and we got a selfie, because that's kind of what people,
because that's what you do. Yeah.
And we exchanged, found out where he's from and who's from. When I got back to the U.S., we hooked up on LinkedIn, and
That's
we've been
great.
in touch.
That's
And
great.
You're building that network. It really is a wonderful way to grow that. So that may be one reason why you're doing this, is to build out that network, either professionally or personally. If I had a plan, I have no plan for my career. This was an accident. That's what I would have done 15 years ago to start building my career, is start a podcast for that reason.
Right. And but the big question though that people have when they want to start doing this is, why do I want to start a podcast?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask the money question. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that a little later. But you know that tends to, because now it's over. I think I was on a recent podcast interview about podcasting. It was one of those meta podcasts about podcasting. It was actually called For the Love of Podcast. That was his brand new show. Started off, terrific show, terrific host. And its host Billy was asking me, where do you begin? And and we were talking about statistics, and he was actually saying that there are right now a million podcasts that are still constantly being updated.
That might seem daunting at first.
It seemed, well, hey, look, I remember when in the second edition, it was something like, oh, wow, we got to change this number from 15,000 podcasts to 30,000 podcasts. You know, I mean, and now there's over a million. There's over a million. And the question is, why would I want to even throw that pebble into the ocean? So for me, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, okay, do I have enough content to make a podcast? And whether it's you as an individual, whether it's you and a bunch of friends just sitting around, you have to sit down and ask yourself, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? And so for me, the starting point is always in planning. I need to see how quickly it's going to take me to reach 5 episodes. And if I can crank out 5 ideas for episodes like that, I can also decide what the posting schedule is going to be. Now, what about you, Chuck? Do you follow the same thing, or do you have a different?
Exactly. I mean, I was a bit nudged into it because I tend to do things a little off the spur of the moment sometimes.
The deuce you say. The deuce you say.
I have an idea. I run with it before I get the next idea.
There you go.
That's
Chuck Tomasi, everybody. He's the only rugby player that tries to dive into the pitch without the rugby ball. I mean, they're like, Chuck, you need this. You need this. I'm sorry. You were saying.
Yeah, that's my Achilles heel. But this past summer, I launched a new podcast for work. And of course, to get any kind of funding, there wasn't actually any need for funding, but to get access to the accounts and whatever, I had to make a proposal, a plan. And it included what topics you want to talk about, what's the posting schedule, exactly what you just said. Yes, I could come up with easily 6 months worth of content. We went to a fortnight schedule, so every other week, which is kind of interesting. I've never done that outside of somebody else's work with topic as Trek. Never really thought that was a reasonable schedule, because you got to look at it and say, do I have enough content that warrants every week? Because that's going to increase your workload.
Yeah.
Or I go monthly, which feels like a long time to me between. But there are topics that lend themselves very nicely. Maybe you've got a lot of research to do. If you're doing, ancient Chinese history of war, you might have to do your boning up on your facts before you can get that next one in.
Exactly.
But you go, I've got 20 topics. They're just going to take a long time to produce. Fine, go do. Your schedule is your schedule. The other nice thing I like about the fortnight is when I do get these one-offs, somebody says, hey, can you get a podcast in about this? We've got a new product being released or whatever. Yes, I can. And because it's an audio-only podcast, I can do those at the drop of the hat now. I mean,
right.
You can do an audio podcast in your sleep practically.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It feels like far less effort than putting together the plan for a live stream and checking lights and setting up streams. And
as much as I love to stream, I mean, like you might have noticed, Chuck, that I have a new background in my studio, and it was because I noticed that my background was absolutely and utterly bland compared to, say, you remember Podcasting's Rich Sigford, right? Well, actually, he's our technical editor. And computer off. I don't know what triggered that thing. I swear to God, I really believe my Echo is tied into Skynet. Any day now, it's gonna just say it's gonna say, I've launched the missiles. See ya, sucker. But anyway, go.
And I'm setting your Facebook ads by what you just said.
Exactly. But like Richie Munster, aka Podcasting's Rich Sigfrid, he has an amazing background. I mean, and it's got LED lights and all this stuff, but that's because he has the kind of background where he's got depth. If I scoot back too far, I'm going to hit the wall. So, and even, comparing your studio to my studio, I'm just like, man, I had a blank white wall and it needed work. And I tried lights, that didn't work. So then one day I just said, we're going to paint this green because, man, I look washed out. I just look washed out. And then we started hanging stuff up. This just went up today. This thing with the running, I got the Nerd Lounge sign, and then I started going, okay, now it's starting to feel a little more comfortable. But with audio, you could be in your pajamas. You could just go on ahead and just kick back and just crank out audio like this. So,
Yeah.
so with when you have that ability to map out different shows, and for me, I prefer working on a fortnightly schedule when I can keep it. That can also get a little dicey, but the content has to be there first. So
Yes.
I always map out the first 5 shows, and I can see just how intense and how much we can talk about, from each week or every other week or however we work it. Now, one of the other things that I would also say.
This is great. Anyone want a hug? No hugs.
Thanks for that drop in there, Drafty. I do appreciate it. So, but when it comes to setting a schedule, the one thing you got to make sure of when you've got your schedule set is also, especially if you're doing it from a corporate perspective, if you're going to start doing something from the corporate perspective, just remember they may or may not live or die by that schedule you have set, especially if you are reliant on content from other people.
Yes.
The first time I tried a corporate podcast, I was really excited because everybody loved the idea. Everybody was ready to go. Everybody was set. They were just like, this is going to be awesome. And then I said, okay, now I need content. We'll get back to you, T. And and I just watched the gap just go. I had 3 shows all ready to go, but then after that I couldn't. And then when I went to my boss and I said, we're coming up on our next one and I can't get content from people, so can I put no, you can't put something together. Why? Well, because you're not an expert in cybersecurity. I'm like, I could read the news. I could do no. So when you have your schedule written out, or you've got like the first 5 shows ready to go, the next thing is going to be, okay, where's the content coming from? And if if you're creating the content, in Chuck's case or in my case, that's entirely different.
Yeah.
But now,
all of my work podcasts need a guest. I'm doing interviews. I'm doing conversations.
Right.
So I'm going to line those people up months in advance to make sure it's on their calendar. Then, get the Q&A out to them a few weeks in advance. So
Right.
that when we get to the recording session, it's just sit down and let's have this conversation.
Boom.
If that's it turns into any other work project when you start involving other people. So be ready for that. Real quick, from a work standpoint, one reason to start podcasting for fun is to gain that experience that you can then take to your employer and become that podcast expert. I feel very fortunate and blessed to, again, have accidentally fallen into this career. But doing what I did 15 years ago and gaining that experience around audio production and editing and interviewing and all the things we talk about in the book really lent itself well when it came time for me to spot an opportunity to say, hey, I'd like to do this. And
Right.
my boss goes, by all means, you've got the chops for it. Like, okay, well, that was easy.
So Sam says we couldn't meet a regular schedule with work. And that, yeah, we can only produce when we could. And for some corporations, that's an issue. Now, if there are workarounds for that. And I want to spend a little more time with corporate podcasts before we start getting into personal podcasting. One of the things that you can do, though, and that's going to be, now Sam actually says this in chat, time was always hard to come by. Yeah. And that is a mantra you will hear again and again with podcasting. 9 times out of 10, the reason why podcasts make it 3 episodes and then pod fade, they just stop, is because people suddenly realize, wow, this is hard work.
It takes an effort to keep going.
And then you've got the audio, and you've got the editing, and you've got the polish, and you got to make sure that you're constantly creating content, or you have content to draw from, and it's hard to do.
It's the same with the other communications, whether it's a newsletter.
Yeah.
You've got quarterly newsletters that go to your customers from the marketing department. Hey, they've got a schedule. It's because that's a priority. Time is always based on priorities.
Right.
So when you launch into this from a corporate standpoint, make sure you've got the backing to keep it a priority.
It's why
that way you have the time.
It's why when when I interview for social media positions, one of the first things I ask is, do you have a a real interest in social media. How seriously do you take it? And it's the same thing with a podcast. When I was at code.gov, I never thought about doing a podcast, and that was a specific reason. I did not do a podcast at code.gov because I myself could not think of how to do open source on a federal level as a podcast. I couldn't figure out how to make that work. I wanted to make it work, but I couldn't. However, we did have an unofficial code.gov stream. And that's an entirely different story. It is still going on, as a matter of fact, too, even though I'm no longer there, and the person who hosts that stream isn't there either. But the thing is, that sort of thing, you might find out that your job may not lend itself to a podcast. So, yep. So what you have to make sure of is that if you are having trouble finding content, then okay, if you don't have enough guests to go around, or if you don't have enough people internally to interview, pull up news stories from that are relevant to your work, like
plan B.
Yeah, have a plan B. Have a plan B. There are always news stories. Even like, for example, he just came into stream Drafty. Let's say Drafty here wanted to do a podcast, and he wanted to do a podcast about brewing. Well, shoot, where to begin? If he got hired by a microbrew, by say a place like Old Busthead or Dogfish, and they said, okay, make us a podcast. What would it be? You could talk about the brewing process for a porter, and you could talk about the brewing process of what makes a stout a stout. You could talk about that, and then you could talk about developments in the business. And with a fortnightly schedule, what's terrific is that you have a lot of flexibility, because those first 5 shows that you map out should be evergreen topics, so that when something that is relevant to your company's interests suddenly pops up in the news, you can comment about it on the podcast, and then shift around the ones you already know that are coming. You can shift those later, and that way your podcast becomes topical. Now, that's all from a corporate level, but let's talk about from a personal level. First off, Star Trek. Star Trek has probably got so many podcasts at it, you couldn't blink and not find a new podcast. And yet, this knucklehead over here started up with 2 other knuckleheads that I know. The topic is Trek. So the question is, why did you start up a brand new Star Trek episode? A new Star Trek podcast, when there are so many others out there on the market?
It gets back to the P word, passion.
Passion.
We're passionate about Star Trek. We want to share. And this is something we do include in the book. Nobody else is going to have a podcast just like yours. You bring something unique. You have a unique voice. Your passion, your approach, your topic selection is going to be completely different than anyone. And that will resonate with your listeners, or at least we hope it does. You might have, you one among a million other Star Trek podcasts, or beer podcasts are another popular one.
Another one, yeah.
But don't be afraid, because don't think the market is saturated with that particular topic. You bring something unique. That's what I did when I first started podcasting. Back when there were like 150 podcasts.
Right.
Listen,
the salad days.
I said, CNET already had a very wonderful tech news story,
right?
A news podcast. And I said to myself, okay, Apple, Google, Microsoft, they got that. What can I do that they're not? And that's where Technorama kind of came off with this weird spin of, we're going to do the stuff that's left on the cutting room floor.
Right. The lighter side of tech. That's your motto. The lighter side of tech. I mean, it's the same thing with Happy Hour. When I pitched to Nick and Brandon doing a Destiny podcast, at the time, Brandon, who is the wicked gamer of the 3 of us, I mean, he is the young teenager high school gamer, right? So he can breeze through the Crucible, he can breeze through Gambit. He's savage. He's incredible at the game. He was worried about it because he said, why are we doing this? And he was kind of being a little angsty teenager too. He was going, why are we doing this? there are other shows out there, and they're run by people who are really good at this game. And then, Bungie occasionally does their own podcast. And I go, this is the reason why we're doing it. We're not Bungie. We're not Glad. We're not Clyde. We're not Lulu. We're not ZG Photo. We are not that level of players. We are 3 people who absolutely love this game, and we just want to share that love with you. And so what happened?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's how the show started to evolve. We brought on favorite streamers, and we interviewed them for the show, and we talked about how much time they clocked into certain things. We then started reaching out to the voice talent, and we were getting people like Joy Osmansky. We were getting Sissy. I'm blanking on Sissy's last name. Sissy Speaks. It's her name on Twitter, but we were getting. We also got Courtney Taylor, who voices Amanda Holliday. We were getting, and then we got the voice director for Destiny 2, so he could tell us about the stories about when he directed Franklin Jella. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is like a nerdgasm. And our show, we've told people, if you come on to Happy Hour from the Tower, if you listen to Happy Hour and you're expecting to hear about the latest meta weapons and the latest strats for the next raid, that's not us. We're the guys that are like, oh my God, I just ran the dungeon for the first time. Let me tell you about what I saw. And we just share a lot of that passion, but then we go into the news and we talk about, upcoming developments in Destiny. We talk about upcoming developments in the Destiny community. We talk about different events. We've had the one of the founders of GCX come onto our show and just talk about its evolution. And that is what our show is. It is not like everybody else's show. And we're okay with that. Every voice will be unique. Every voice will have something true about it. Like you said, Chuck, provided the passion's there.
You talked about your experience of going through the dungeon for the first time. Reminded me, we have a mutual friend, Victor, who you don't have to be a subject matter expert to start a podcast. In fact, that could be the premise of your podcast is follow me with my journey through X. Victor started one called the Typical Mac User Podcast. I mean, he had never touched a Macintosh before starting this podcast. And he said, I'm going to take you through it because I know there's a lot of people out there with a lot of questions, just getting started, just like me. And he took that. It became extremely popular.
God, I love that show. I loved it.
It was a wonderful show. I listened to it and I learned something on every podcast. I've been using Mac since the early 90s.
Between him and Adam Christensen, we were all covered.
Pretty much.
So
you again, you don't feel nervous that, oh my gosh, I don't know this, I'm not the subject matter expert. You could leverage that to your advantage to become that subject matter expert as you learn on your journey, and you will get wonderful feedback from your listeners. Because if that's your premise and saying, I'm just learning this, follow me along with the journey, you're going to get contributions from people saying, hey, did you know about this tip? Or, hey, let me tell you this secret. Did you see this news story? The interaction between you and your audience, I'm not going to refer to them as listeners. I'll try not to. Right. You and your audience is going to be a wonderful experience under that premise, just as well as if you had been doing this for 25 years and, I'm the old retired fart and I'm going to teach everything I know about this personal topic. Yeah, that's fine too. If you want to take your experience and share it, please somebody share how to make taxes easier.
Well, another good example of that is Mur Lafferty. If the grand dame of podcasting is what I like to call her. Mur Lafferty, chat, just so you know, is one of the original. She is one of the original of the podcast literature vanguard. Mur first started doing on another podcast short story fiction. And Mur, she is a talented writer, and she called me up. This is back in like 2007, maybe even 2006, and she said, "T, I want to start up a podcast on writing." And I said, "Okay, great, cool." She goes, "But I have no idea what to call it." I said, "Okay." She said, the thing is, I want it to be a podcast about accountability. I want it to be a podcast about how here I am telling you my story as a writer and trying to get published, when really I should be writing.
Ding 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 ding.
And I said, well, there it is. There's your title. She was like, what's the title? And I said, I should be writing. Not only now as I should be writing one of the biggest writing podcasts that's out there, Mur Lafferty, who was unpublished at the time, who was a brand new voice in science fiction, is now a Campbell winner. And she's now writing tie-ins for Star Wars. She wrote the Star Wars tie-in for Solo. And I mean, awesome. That gives you an idea of what kind of, and she has always been really consistent with her content and with her delivery.
Naming podcasts is always a good challenge. We'll talk about that a little later.
That we will.
I tend to be a very unimaginative person when it comes to naming.
So just so that we can wrap it up, where, what would be the last things? We've talked about mapping out the first few shows. We've talked about making sure that you know where the content is coming from, but then we're also talking about don't be intimidated if a whole lot of other people are talking about the same topic. What would be one more topic you would want to, or one more piece of advice that you'd want to share with? Okay, I want to start a podcast. Where do I begin?
Just do it. Where to begin? Go get a book first.
Ooh,
then just do it.
Here we go. Sharky, everybody. With a question: how long should the podcast be? What's too short and what's too long?
It should be twice the length of half its length.
Measure once, edit twice. No,
there is no formula.
I've
heard 60-second podcasts.
Yeah.
This guy did a 1-minute podcast years ago. I've heard podcasts that go 2.5, 3 hours. There is no exact measurement. You will get listeners to say, could you make it 20 minutes? Because that's the length of my commute. You know what?
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that, because I was on a panel. With somebody who will not be named, but you and I talked about him. We removed him from the book. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. We removed him from the book with some of the stuff that he said on his website about his expertise. And one of the things that he said was, well, if you want to know the average podcast, it should not go beyond 20 to 30 minutes, because that's the usual commute to work. I then turned to him.
Silicon Valley.
And that's the thing. I turned to him. I said, you obviously don't live in the Washington, D.C. metro area, now do you?
Right.
And that brought the house down, because we were in New York.
Perfect.
And I'm just like, look. And he kind of gave me side eye, but I didn't care. I just said, look, the podcast is as long as you want it to be.
And it will vary.
It will vary. Oh, yeah.
Technorama started out as about 20 minutes, and now we're trying to hold it under an hour. It will drift. And it's okay to have that.
Yeah, it's okay to have breadth and length to your podcast.
You're not beholden to some show clock that has to have an ad every 18 minutes or something. That's traditional media. Let it be what it is.
Yeah.
And if you have visions of potentially taking your video or something, there was a podcast produced in this studio that went to XM, and they had to play by a play clock. So they made the segments what they were.
Right.
That's fine. Most of us don't need that or want that.
The other thing too is that there are always going to be exceptions to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I went on a friend's podcast. It was the Innovative Mindset podcast, hosted by a lovely lady named Isolde Trachtenberg, and she got me onto her podcast to talk about the creative mind, and she brought me on because, one, she knew me from the Ren Fair days. Two, she knew that I was finishing up my third book of the year. In order, I've written Discord. I finished up Discord for Dummies. I then did the second edition of Social Media for Writers, and then with this guy, we did the fourth edition of Podcasting for Dummies. 3 books in a year. That is not a bad schedule. And Isolde wanted me to come on and talk about it. Talk about the creative process behind streaming, the creative process behind writing. How do I make the two work, et cetera, et cetera. And I looked at her previous podcasts, and her podcast ran about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I said, we'll be fine. 3 hours later, we are still talking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And she was like, no, this is great. We're going to be fine. There's nothing I want to edit from this. This is all wheat, no chaff. I'm like, okay. So then she invites me to come back on to talk about podcasting for dummies. And I said, all right, sure. Maybe this time we'll keep within that 1 hour window. Say it with me, chat. 3 hours later, we are still going. And I said to her, you're okay with this, right? And she was like, T, I'm loving it. So now I just tell people I give good interview. But they're really,
as the host, you have the option of breaking that apart too.
Yeah, exactly.
She said, look, I try for 45 minutes and we've been going for an hour and a half. I'm going to cut it at this point at 47 and a half, and we'll make it a two-parter. That's your prerogative. Be respectful of your listeners and all that. But you know what? They always have it on their device, and they can pause and come back to it at any time. I can think of very few podcasts, even the 15-minute ones, that I can listen to in one sitting at 1.5 times speed, because I'm always getting interrupted with something, or I always have a second thought. So it is what it is, and let it be what it is.
And that's the other thing is that it doesn't matter when. It really doesn't matter when you're like, okay, I'm done talking. You're done. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you decide how you want to edit it. Sometimes Happy Hour from the Tower goes long. We go to we originally wanted the show to be no more than 35 minutes. It now floats between 45 minutes and an hour and a half. And the one thing we never hear is complaints. People are just like, oh, you guys could have kept on going. So really, Sharky, I would say it is wherever you are comfortable with. But just remember, if you are going to edit, if you are going to polish and edit and make sure that there are no flubs or anything like that, that's going to take you a little longer. But find the length. That's what she said. Find the length that God, I almost said that she is comfortable with. Yeah, too late. This is going to get an explicit tag, everybody. Find the length for your podcast that is comfortable for you. And it's okay to go on occasional tangents. Just make sure that whatever tangents you go on, you stay focused. So would there be anything else that you'd want to throw in there, Chuck? Because that was a great question to end on, Chuck.
That was a great question. Caused us to go a little over.
A little bit, and that's fine. That's fine. But hey, you know what? If you want to if you got a question like Sharky, the best thing to do is to make sure you're here for the stream. So go on ahead and pay us a visit at twitch.tv/TheTMonster, and we'll make sure that you know when we're going live with Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast. You can also drop us an email or even a voicemail at WhatsApp and you can use WhatsApp as well at 703-791-1701. You can also call it directly, and also that'll take you straight to voicemail. You can also go to podcastingfordummies.com and find the show that's most recently posted. Go into the comment section, leave your thoughts, leave a question. We will pick it up for the next show. So, I forgot to do this for the first show. Just remember, everybody, Podcasting for Dummies is protected by a non-commercial, no derivative, share alike United States 3.0 license. You can find out more about that license at creativecommons.org. On behalf of Chuck, thanks for listening, everybody. Pod on. We're clear. That's show number 2. 2 down, 2 to go, everybody. 2 down, 2 to go. Thank you. Thank you.
Who gets
Twitch starters in the house. Yeah, I saw you brought a small. And hello. How you doing there, hon?
I know I have that closer in here somewhere. I'm looking for it.
Yeah. We can. I mean, we'll refine this on the next one, which actually will be next week. We're going to do this again next week at 1 p.m. again on Saturday 1 p.m. Come here and we will do 4 more episodes. We got them all mapped out here, everybody.
Nothing but net.
Nothing but net. Nothing but net. All right. So let me see. The next topic I have is what's new.
Yes, what's new in 4E?
What's new in the 4th edition? All right.
We still didn't really touch. We were going to do this in the first one about the monetization thing and 6-figure podcasts. We kind of ran out of time. I'm not sure if you want to re-inject that somewhere or save it for a future topic on when we do the chapter stuff.
Do you think we could actually do a whole show on that? I mean, I mean, yeah, I think we can. I think we could do that. I mean,
Can we have a chapter on monetization?
I think we should save that. We should make a note about that and save that
Yeah.
for when we talk about monetization in particular, like having sponsorships and things like that.
Yep.
All right.
So, dear viewer, we will be getting to that topic of monetization because I know it's on a lot of people's minds when they think about podcasting. Is, hey, can I make any money at this?
Yeah, no kidding. Never.
We have our voice on said topic.
It's actually oh, so you found the release, Sharky? Perfect. There we go. Billy Samoa Saleby. That's who it was. I squeezed him. We squeezed him into the new edition. This is the guy I was on for the Love of Podcast, and his name is Billy Samoa Saleby. I'll have to make sure I Yeah, he had Todd on. He had Todd on earlier, but I'm coming in and I'm going to be like a 2-parter episode. So
Cool.
He's a good guy. Good guy. Really super good guy. Like him. All right. So,
give me that closer information again. We've got our website, podcastingfordummies.com. Find our book anywhere.
oh, that's right. Find our book. Well, now we can say it because by the time this one drops, the What's New, this will be the release date. This is dropping on the release date. So
we got voice line.
Yeah, voice line 703-791-1701.
791.
703-791. The last 4 digits you should know. 1701.
Yeah.
And then podcastingfordummies.com and this channel for questions and answers and all that stuff.
TV/the T Monster.
Yeah, make sure that the is in there. Okay, so I'm gonna run upstairs, get some water because I'm trying to hydrate after this thing.
We're gonna mention anything about the Discord channels or anything?
I wanted to wait until we refine the Discord channels, but yeah,
Okay.
I think we should definitely do that. We should definitely find a get an invite for that. But let me chat. Give me a moment. I'm gonna go on ahead and put us on intermission, and I'm gonna go on ahead and quickly hydrate. So give us a few ticks. We will be right back with more of Podcasting for Dummies right after this break.
Bond. James Bond.
Very subtle, Chuck. Very subtle. Very. Now you see why I love working with this guy.
Trying to finish my snack off camera, but
Yeah.
heck with it.
No. I grabbed a so safe to say we have conquered my wife and I have conquered the Trejo's Tacos, which is a cookbook from Danny Trejo, as in Machete, as in the big guy. You know, he's a super tatted, intimidating dude, and he is the sweetest guy in the world. And he is also he's also a hella good cook. He has made some. He's got this. He's got a chain. To give you an idea how successful his Trejo's Tacos chain stores are in L.A. during COVID, he opened a new location. That's saying something, chat. That is absolutely saying something.
Not an easy time to grow a business.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And Panic, thank you very much for hanging out. We really appreciate it. Also, chat, just want to say real quick, thank you for keeping my wife company last night. I went to bed early, as many of you know, because I had that half this morning, and I came in here to set up the stage with the with the book covers and respective book covers and everything, and I want to try to clean this up too. I would like to set up a more branded podcasting for dummies kind of setup for Streamlabs. Right now, I'm just keeping it simple, but I saw all the chat from last night, and the fact that you guys just are just so good to my wife when she streams. I just want to say thanks. It's very sweet. Just so you know, Chuck, Pip is currently playing Ghost of Tsushima. And to give you an idea what this game is like, just picture playing an open world. I'm blanking on the director's name. Akira? No, not Akira. Director of the Seven Samurai. What is his name?
No, that wasn't Kurosawa.
Oh man, Kurosawa. Yes, Akira.
Yes,
Akira Kurosawa. Picture playing an open world Kurosawa film. That's what this is. And to give you an idea of how good this game is, they actually have something called Kurosawa mode, where it turns it into a grainy black and white film.
Then it goes into Tarantino mode.
No,
then it goes into Michael Bay mode.
Well, no, this is the thing. They wanted to call it Kurosawa mode, so they sent a tester to the Kurosawa estate and said, "We'd like to use this," and they played it, sent it back, and they said, "Not only are we giving you our permission, we're giving you our blessing."
Nice.
So they actually have a Kurosawa mode, and my God, this is a gorgeous game. But oh God, there's so much tragedy in this. Jeez Louise. I'm like, there's nobody happy in Japan. Man, I'm beginning to think now the reason why Godzilla goes in to raise a city, it's basically to put them out of their misery, man. I tell you what. All right. So now we're doing the third episode, and for those of you who are just joining us in chat, thank you very much. This is actually a work in progress. This guy over here is Chuck Tomasi. He is the guy that I wrote Podcasting for Dummies with. You know me as being one of the authors of Podcasting for Dummies. You also know me as a guy who wrote this book, and before anybody asks, yes, it's a legit dummies book. I also wrote Discord for Dummies. So that's and a lot of this is because of this guy and how successful Podcasting for Dummies has been. And right now, knock wood, I'm trying to prod them to put Twitch for Dummies 2nd edition higher on the priority map. It's time.
When did that come out?
Came out January 2019.
Okay.
Some of the basics are fine. The basics are fine, but it's Twitch is now broadening they're broadening the services that they're offering to all streamers.
Okay.
They've got this really slick creator dashboard, which is really, really good. It's actually quite good. Streamlabs has also changed a lot too. Streamlabs is trying to become almost a competitor to Twitch, and you can do the same things, but you can do more on our end, which is interesting. Just recently, like for example, last week, I was doing a 2-year anniversary of Blind Leads the Blind and a 1-year anniversary of getting rated by a guy named Markiplier, and I wanted to do a raffle, but I've never done a raffle before online. So Streamlabs they have raffle software. So I set it up. I did all the things, and I said, if you donate $10 to No Kid Hungry, this is what's going to be this is how we're going to raffle, and it worked seamlessly. Now it worked seamlessly, but I had a small audience. I don't think my audience got any higher than 20 or 25.
Sure.
But if I had obviously I would have done it differently if I'd had say 250. But the raffle, it was very easy to do. It was very easy to do. And they also keep a track. So if I'd forgotten, wait, who won this? I can go to Streamlabs and pull up the raffle, and it'll say, this was the item that was raffled. These are the people that, it basically keeps all that. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So that's new. Streamlabs now runs on Mac, which is new. There are all these little things that have changed. And now, I don't know if you heard about this, but it was funny. Before we get recording on the next episode, there was a whole bunch of streamers last summer, or it was this spring. It was either last summer or this spring. I can't remember now. The days are blurring together. But basically, all these streamers got served copyright violations.
Oh.
Because they were playing music in the background. And I wrote about this in Twitch. That is nothing new. I mean, most streamers, not all, but most streamers, they're playing music. They're playing their Spotify playlist in the background. It's softly in the background, just setting a tone. And nobody said anything. And I'm like, is this kosher? And
No.
Well,
I often wonder the same thing, because there's, especially now with like TikTok being popular among the younger kids and doing dance moves.
Yeah.
How are they getting away with using these popular artists for free and making money at it? This just seems wrong. But
so here's so here's what happened. Here at least here like it's a little weird how it's working, because like the most recent thing to go viral was that dude on his skateboard drinking an ocean spray, and he's listening to Dreams, and then Mick Fleetwood parodies it, and then Stevie Nicks parodies it, and when Ocean Spray found out that this guy drinking their product, the reason why he was skateboarding was because his truck kept breaking down. They bought him a new truck. And then they filled the truck bed with Ocean Spray cranberry juice. And it's just like, it's nuts. But going back to what happened with Twitch, all of these streamers were getting copyright violations. And the thing was that when I wrote Twitch for Dummies, it was very clear. It wasn't clear. It was very murky. But they basically said Spotify and Twitch are now looking the other way. And nobody is saying anything. But then I said in the book, that could change at any time, and it did. And everybody's freaking out. Well, now coming in, I want to say December or January, Twitch is introducing something called Soundtrack, and it's an app that integrates with Twitch directly and allows people to play copyright-free music. And I'm like, okay, I can see that, sure. No. But these are just the little things that are going on in Twitch, and I'm just like, yeah, I'd like to be able to do a second edition, but we'll see how it goes. I've also learned a lot between 2019 and now. I've learned a heck of a lot. That's something that doesn't change. All right, so this one is going to be what's new. This is coming out this will be coming out the day of the book. All right,
that's what my schedule says.
Okay.
11/3, election day. Go vote. Vote while you read the book in line.
Exactly.
We still want to see a picture. Somebody reading the book while they're lined up to vote.
That would be a riot. An absolute riot. Okay. So we'll pick this up. 3. I'll bring us in.
Okay.
3, 2, How you doing, everybody? It is once again Podcasting for Dummies, the 4th edition, book release day. Woo! And we're pretty stoked about that. I am your host, T. Morris, and joining me on this,
I'm Chuck Tomasi.
and we are back once again with a brand new edition. Remember, vote, then go support your local bookstore and pick up a copy of Podcasting for Dummies, 4th edition. Or go to the store first, pick up a copy of Podcasting for Dummies, 4th edition. Have somebody take a picture of you reading the book while you're in line for voting. That would be dope. That would be absolutely and utterly dope.
We will amplify that post.
Yes, we will. Yeah, and if we get enough entries, we'll figure out doing some type of wacky drawing. I don't know what, but we'll think of something. Anyway, Chuck, we are here to talk a little bit about what's new in the 4th edition, because really that's everybody's big question. That's everybody's big question. Wait, I just bought Podcasting for Dummies, and now a new edition's coming out? And the answer is yes. So the question first is, okay, how much has changed between 2017 and 2020? COVID set aside.
I like to think of this like an amusement park. No one would ever come back if there weren't new rides periodically.
Amen.
There's got to
Amen.
be that new hot roller coaster. Well, we've put our hot roller coasters into this book as well as painted up the old ones too.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, so, there was a huge gap between the second. This is the way I like to tell people. The first edition was brand spanking new, broke ground. Second edition was more like, there's some new stuff that's come out. Let's go on ahead and let's feature that. So it was really kind of a
huge technology change between 2005 and 2008 as well. I mean, it wasn't just so much stuff. When I look at that first edition, going, remember the iRiver?
Yeah. And then Zoom showed up. Yeah, but I still have my iRiver, believe it or not. I still have I have no idea if it works, but because
is it?
I'm sure it works. The problem is the software that bridged the iRiver with my Mac, that doesn't work. I know that for a fact. But yeah, I still have my iRiver just strictly as a prop now. It's what I call we called that back in the day, everyone, the podcaster's necktie. You could always find the podcasters at Dragon Con because they would have the iRivers around their neck. And yes, I was one of those podcasters that after imbibing a little too much at Dragon Con, the next morning, I look down and I go, why do I have a 5-hour audio file on here? And then I go back and I listen. And sure enough, I'd forgotten to turn off record. And I picked up where I go into the men's room. I'm like, oh my God, I think I'll edit this part out. So there you go.
That's not as bad. I mean, I'll put that as in a second place. The first place is when you have the Zoom H2 and you forget to hit the record button for the second time.
Oh,
the first tap is standby mode.
Ouch.
And you've recorded that 45-minute interview with the personality or celebrity you wanted, and you've been waiting your whole life, and then you go, it still says 0 and it's blinking at me. Can we do that again?
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
We'll get into the checklist in a future
Oh
chapter,
yeah. Oh yes, we will definitely do that. Yeah.
Company still included. I fall victim to things as simple as, did you check how much space is on the SD card before you started recording?
So the jump between book 1 and book 2, it was significant because like iRiver in the first book, iRiver was the big book, was the big toy that we all had. And then Zoom came along and they changed everything with the H4 and the H2. Then there was then when people say, okay, so you had the first and second edition, then there was the third edition. The third edition was not an update. That was a rewrite. That was a full-on rewrite. It was the bones are good, but we're gutting this house. And that was edition 3. Now we get to edition 4. Now edition 4 does feel like it feels like a bit of a nip tuck. You know what I mean? I
didn't feel that way when we were writing it.
No, we didn't. No, especially when it came to checking the images and making sure that we had permission to use them. It was more about it was more about though I really think we talked more about workflows, and we talked more about. Oh, actually, I remember one of the first things we removed from the book, and I remember just having absolute joy in removing it, and it was saying that phrase of you do not need an iPod to listen to a podcast.
There were a number of things that held on from first and second edition, and even into the third that were still there. My wife, God bless her, is sort of our final copy editor after the editors get done reading it.
Right.
And she would find things. She went back and checked every URL,
Yep.
every name. We had a name error that has been in there since the first edition. So yeah, this was a thorough, let's really scrape the paint and put on a new layer before we just spray over the old stuff. It was, pardon all the metaphors, but some people are listening to this in audio, they need some visual cues. It really was like you said, we gutted the house, we kept some of the bones.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the steady chapters throughout all 4 editions has been the interview chapter. I mean, interviewing questions and skills and tips and tricks still stay this.
Well, but I also remember we updated some of those too. We did kind of we did use that. And the thing is, the interview techniques have been, in my opinion, have been so reliable. I actually used a lot of them in Twitch for Dummies when it came to that. Real quick though, Drafty in chat just said, I heard a podcast where they each were recording locally. One muted the call but forgot to mute the recording, and they let him go to the restroom in the cast. You got to be careful about stuff like that. You really do.
Oh, I'm always reluctant about.
Oh yeah.
Where's the laptop? Which way is the camera pointing? Just for my work Zoom calls.
Yeah.
It's like, am I on camera? I'm gonna put a piece of tape over that just anyway.
I remember when Pip was Pip got a bumper from the Flight of the Conchords, Jermaine Clement and Brett McKenzie, and she had the same thing happen. She forgot to hit record, and they did a bumper for her, and she said, I forgot to hit record. Would you mind doing it again? And they just kind of stared at her like, you're so darling. She flashed those baby blues at him, and they were done. But no, I mean, I remember though, but that was even back in 2017. I remember people were saying things like, do I need I thought I needed an iPod to listen to a podcast, but I think so much had changed, especially it felt like between 2017 and 2020. Suddenly people were just, well, first off, one, they stopped making iPods. That's the first thing. Yeah. And the second thing was that people really started to grasp the impact of podcasting.
Well, it used to be, up until, I would say, just a little before the 3rd edition in 2017. There's the conversation or the question, what is a podcast, seems to have evaporated. I mean, it is such a piece of our culture now that we don't even go into that so much in the book. This is, I actually cite this in the book. This is how long you and I have been podcasting. It started off as something that the nerds in the basement of the science building were doing, and nobody understood it. Then it became a punchline of, if you can't hack it in the broadcast industry, you could go ahead and start a podcast. Go ahead, buddy.
Right. Now Jordan Peele reboots The Twilight Zone. One of his early episodes is Nightmare at 30,000 feet, where he does a retelling of Nightmare at 20,000 feet, but in this case, the guy is listening to a podcast, and it's the podcast that's actually driving the protagonist to do all these stupid things. And the best part, when he listens to the podcast, it's the guy they hired was given one direction. You need to sound like Aaron Menke in Lore. Because he had that sort of voice, that Aaron Menke voice. And this is Lore. I mean, it was that. And I'm like, wow, we've come a long way. We have come a long way, baby, with podcasting. It really
has permeated the pop culture.
It really has.
And just about every TV series that I watch has some mention or episode. There was an episode of The Blacklist in season 6, 5, 6, whatever.
I love Spader in The Blacklist.
I was doing a podcast about a guy who was wrongly accused of murder, and her podcast helped get him.
Basically, it was Serial. It was Serial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I mean, it was they keep up with the times, and we've got that. So it really, you don't have that conversation quite as much as we used to. Occasionally, there's still somebody who goes, "Explain to me, what exactly is a podcast?" That's one of the things we changed in this book.
That got a major facelift because, and we had to. That was one of the other things that we removed, which was we drew that line in the sand, as we had said earlier in earlier episodes. We drew that line in the sand of like, all right, this is what is a podcast. You know, this is what a podcast is. And if you're doing anything else and you're calling it a podcast, stop doing that because it's not a podcast. And now we were just like, okay, things have changed. People are consuming media differently. Let's be honest. A podcast has changed, and we are changing with it. And I would say that, yeah, defining what a podcast is, I think we still said for the purposes of this book, this is what you need for a podcast. And we limited our and the main reason we also limited our podcast to focus just on audio is mainly because the new, and yeah, that was another thing that changed. There's a new 800-pound gorilla. Originally it was Altitude. Originally it was iTunes. Now it's Spotify.
There ain't no iTunes anymore.
That too. There ain't no iTunes, but Spotify is now the place where people are consuming podcasts, and we addressed that. But the thing that I like about Spotify is they've said, okay, if you want to have your podcast on, great, you just can't have video episodes, and
right.
Okay, and so out of the pool. But yeah, I mean, Spotify bringing on, taking on podcasts, that was huge for us, and it just
now Amazon's got podcasts
as
well.
Yeah, so already the book's got a hiccup because that wasn't a thing. that's how quickly it changes, chat. That's how quickly it changes.
While we were writing, there were a number of things that we had to go back. The other thing we did with the 4th edition is we stepped back and took another look at, this is a dummies book, somebody who's getting started in it. What content in here is way too technical? Because we're both technical people. We can get down into the weeds pretty fast. I think there was a whole section on omnidirectional microphones and unidirectional. It's like, nobody ever asked that.
Yeah.
I want to know what's between a condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone.
Right.
That's a more common question. And because, trust me, we'll talk about microphones in a bit. I got 3 within arm's reach in this.
Only 3? Only 3?
Well, the other 17 in the closet behind me. Got to keep the desk clean for keyboards.
Hey, look, I had so many microphones. I finally was like, screw it, I'm going to do a raffle.
I'm going to sell them to fund other things.
There you go.
But we first have to get to that episode where you get to hear the different microphones.
Oh yeah. I would also say that some of the other things that are new in the book, it goes without saying. And this I thought was actually surprising, how many people that we cited in 2017 and they're still podcasting today.
And how many are not?
It wasn't as bad as between the second and the third edition.
No.
But yeah, there were a lot of people that I'm trying to think. Adam Christensen of the MacCast, he's still going. Yep, we're still going with our, when we started when I started Happy Hour from the Tower and you started Topic is Trek, they were brand new. Now, we had to completely rewrite that section and go, nope, they're not new anymore, and they're still going.
Right. You can't look for those little things that you just kind of glossed over the first time.
Now, one that did surprise me that is still going, and he was great. It was great to reconnect with him. In fact, I need to drop another line again. Mark Gunn is still doing the Irish Celtic podcast, Irish Celtic music podcast, and he's been around, I think, since the second edition.
Yeah, 05 or 06 is when he started.
Yeah. And then of course there's the Dog Days of Podcasting. We talked a little bit about that. There's been, but yeah, there have been more people. I want to say that between the 4 editions, this was the fewest that we had to replace. But it was interesting to see how quickly they petered out after 2017.
And the reason we put those in there is as examples. We're not just going to tell you about a topic like, hey, this is what good cover art should look like.
Right.
We give you examples from people who are podcasting. Now, we do a number of podcasts, but we're not going to splatter the same three things that we do all over the book. It would get a little old.
And to be fair, that was what the first edition or two kind of were. We kind of kept it in our own circles. I mean, I look at the first edition and I go, man, I really need to stop citing myself. But then again, it was one of the things we mentioned in an earlier episode. We said between the first and second edition, I remember one of the things we had to change is, we have this number where there were 15,000 podcasts on iTunes. Well, in the second edition, we had to change that to like 30,000. And then we got to the fourth edition. It's like, okay, there are over 1 million podcasts now active.
Well, and we had it categorized too. And I couldn't even find a recent source of what those category numbers were, so we just took the darn thing out. Like,
yeah, we did. Yeah.
There's a whole lot on a whole lot of topics.
Yeah.
You don't have numbers in this book to tell you that it's very popular, and pick one. The shiny that we have in fourth edition is the focus on streaming. Chapter 17 is new. It's credit to T for writing the vast majority of that, but it goes along with Discord for Dummies and Twitch for Dummies, which are notably, because they're also from the Wiley family, we get to mention them without any problems.
But the other thing too about but the other thing too about it is, while I was streaming, which is something I've been doing a lot of since 2017, I began to realize that the marriage between streaming and podcasting, this really became a platform for me, because I love video editing and I love video podcasting. But the biggest problem with video podcasting is this, and it has always been this, is you want to make sure that when you watch a video podcast, or you're getting a video podcast downloaded to your device or streamed to your device. That's a huge chunk. That is a large lot of files, a lot of files, and for some people it was really hard to keep up. I remember, I remember a very talented filmmaker, Earl Newton, was doing Stranger Things, and this was before Netflix Stranger Things, but it was called Stranger Things, and it was basically Earl Newton's Twilight Zone, and it was really good. It was really, really good. But I also remember it was really tough for him to create that kind of content on a regular basis. It was really tough. And then he'd upload it. It was HD, so it took a really long time to download. And that was something that I think video podcasting just never quite caught on. Then streaming started taking hold, and streaming started to really pick up. And streaming happened between 2 and 3. Streaming was when Justin TV went online in like 2012, if I remember correctly. And
somewhere around there, Craig and I have been doing Technorama on YouTube since 2011.
Right.
We go back and some of those going, boy,
exactly.
And then I know we were doing something on Justin TV for a couple of years before that. So 2008, 9, 10, it was in there somewhere that we got online, and we certainly weren't newcomers to the table, but I think the game changer was really Twitch.
Yes. And the thing about Twitch is that it really came through and created what we were really wanting in 06 and 08. There was an online service that I swear I knew other podcasters could get it to work. I could never get it to work. And when I tried talking to them, they got a little curt with me, and I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this entire pursuit. But the thing that this software promised and never delivered with me and a few other people was the ability of creating a live show. What we're doing right now, where Chuck and I could come on and we could talk about podcasting, and then we'd have chat, and chat would ask us questions about podcasting in real time, and we'd interact with chat. There were people that really wanted that to happen, and yet there were so many different places that offered that ability, whether it was early streaming in '08, or whether it was various vendors that were like, oh, we can give you a live audience while you record, they never came through. Then Twitch found the magic bullet, and they made it work. And now I see people recording podcasts in real time, and they're interacting with chat. And I went to Chuck and I said, Chuck, bear with me, but I think this is what we need to do. Let's take out video podcasting. Let's put in a chapter on streaming and how it works into the podcast flow. And since even before I wrote that chapter for the 4th edition, I now stream all of my podcasts. Happy Hour from the Tower. The guys come in, or we get on Discord, and then we do it in real time. And then I remember introducing that to Pip, and Pip's like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do this. Within 10 minutes, she was mugging to the camera. She was, she was giving winks to the camera, and I'm like, yeah, she's fine. She's fine. And now she is a regular streamer on my channel, and I think she has a bigger fan base than me. I'm just saying. And that's
created a monster.
I have. It's a Pip monster, but again, streaming is great because the other great thing about it is that you can record the show, and as it often happens, sometimes the recording will get borked. We have an entire section about that in the book too. But what's great about streaming is that you can basically pull down the stream, rip the audio, and you've got a backup recording all ready to go. So yeah, I really think streaming has completely changed the landscape of podcasting, and I think I'm starting to see more and more podcasters, people like Isolde Trachtenberg. I'm seeing Scott Sigler do it. I'm seeing more and more people start up Twitch channels, mainly because they're like, oh, this is great because now I can podcast with a live audience.
Yeah, it's more interactive. It's more visceral to see somebody. It's like, hey, I only get to see Scott Sigler at cons.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's in my ear holes.
Yeah.
But this way, you feel like you're having more of a connection with that personality.
Exactly. So I know that was a big change, and then of course there's some of the new tech that's out there. I'm looking at one of the things that Blue Microphone sent me. It amazes me. It amazes me how far Blue Microphones have come in the past 15 years. I still remember those snowballs, and the pickups were a little dicey. Like you had to scream into it, and maybe it would pick up your voice. And then if you didn't have a fast enough processor, the latency was really bad. Now these things are just smooth. They are. The Yeti X is dynamite. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous mic, man, and and I love it. What are some of the tech changes you've seen?
I think my favorite has to be the Rodecaster Pro.
Yeah.
All-in-one mixer, soundboard, recording device, USB, Bluetooth to your phone. It makes the interview process or having a remote host trivial. It really does. Wow. And you don't have to be an audio engineer to figure it out. They've really got this package nailed. It's been out for a couple of years. I think it came out just after we wrote the last book. They sent us an eval unit. I love it. I'm not using it because I have other equipment in the studio, but it's my backup plan, or it's my portable rig is really what it is now. Mm-hmm. I used to have this Tupperware box full of a Behringer, what was it, an 802 with an H2 recording device, and I called it my studio in a box. Mm-hmm. I have no use for that.
We're waxing philosophic, everybody. We're waxing nostalgic right now, everybody.
I keep pillaging things out of that box and not putting them back. Like, I need this XLR cable. I need this splitter. I need something else. And that studio in the box is pretty much down to a mixer and a power supply. Now, the Rodecaster is a beautiful unit. I was even talking to, I think it was one of Craig's friends. He says, I'm going to start podcasting just so I can get one of those. Or maybe he's, it's like, dude, do you even know what topic you want? No, I'm going to figure that out after I get one of these things.
I think we actually said that. I think we actually said that in the book was why would you want to start a podcast? And I think one of the sections we give is you get to play with some of the coolest stuff.
co-host on Technorama, and topic is Trek. Craig said, I want to get one of those. I said, okay, step back. I'm going to put on your reality hat for you. What are you going to do with it? I don't know.
I'll figure it out later. Oh, we love you, Craig. We love you, Craig Stepp. We love you, Craig Stepp.
If I were starting over today, that's the unit I would get.
Now, I will say this. One thing that hasn't changed since day one that is consistent from the first edition all the way up to this edition, this mic right here, the MXL 990. It is still, in my opinion, the best starter mic anybody can ask for. I got 3 of them in the other room.
What's with the red LED?
Okay, this is new.
That's not the same one you've been using.
It's still the LED. It's still the MXL 990. It's still a 990. But this is actually part of the and this again, MXL sent me this. This is the Overcast bundle, and the Overcast bundle includes the MXL 990, a mic, MXL Mic Me, which is a USB adapter, which basically takes this and turns it into a USB mic. And then I get the boom microphone stand, which fastens to the side of the desk, and it basically takes this beautiful XLR mic and turns it into a USB mic. And this particular edition is the Blaze edition. You can either get it Blaze or Blizzard. Blizzard is blue, and it's a white microphone.
Don't you watch the robot shows? You're supposed to get the blue one.
This is like a Decepticon right here. I know at night this thing goes. No, we won't.
That is flashy. It's a slick unit and it works well on camera.
It's very nice. It's very nice, and it does work really well on camera. And when I play the video game Phasmophobia, which if you haven't seen it, Phasmophobia is where a ghost hunt goes bad, and T screams like a banshee. I play it with longtime podcaster Phil Rossi, and I basically do lights out in the studio. So this thing is just like a suspended red orb of evil.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And yeah, I mean it's but no, the MXL 990 and MXL products still remain in the book, and also Shure. We got to give a shout out to Shure. They have been fantastic people to work with. Shure has been great. Zoom has been great. Yep. You know,
2 SM58s, one in each hand.
There you go. SM58. We still talk about the SM7B, which I still use to this day.
I love 7B.
I mean, that tech has evolved, hasn't necessarily changed, but it's evolved. But I would say the biggest thing that has evolved has been recording portably.
Yes.
Portable recorders have still really stepped up, and like like this right here, since we're talking about Shures, this is the Shure MV51, and it looks really super retro, but this is actually a USB mic, and it is totally portable, right? And this can actually plug into the Thunderbolt cable, the Thunderbolt cable of your iPad. And I've done portable recordings using my iPad and GarageBand and all these different things. And so it's really neat how some of the technology has remained the same, but there's been other places that have not. You know, I would also say something else that has changed in the book is we talk about we talk about different platforms to promote on, and I don't remember us covering Instagram. Because no one would have ever thought about promoting their podcast on Instagram.
Yes.
But I've seen a lot of people promoting their stuff on Instagram. And that's been a big one. The other one has been Discord. I mean, I feel like my streaming is more in touch with Discord, because Discord is, as it was described in Discord for Dummies, it's Facebook for gaming. and that was the broad brush that we painted with. But late as you get deeper into Discord, you realize this could work for any creative endeavor. It's basically Facebook, but with more focus. And I really the more I get into Discord, the more I enjoy it. And I'm seeing more podcasters starting to embrace Discord. I've had a few people, and like I said, I've had a few people ask me about it. Even Evo Terra, he was like, so does Discord really work? I'm like, oh yeah, baby, it works. You know, and there is and there's a shift now. People are starting to try to find different places to promote and to build their communities. And I think Discord has become a really major player in building communities around your podcast. If it works for streaming, yes, it'll work for a podcast.
And that's a wonderful thing. As we continue to grow and explore, we'll continue to bring those innovations on this podcast and maybe in the next edition of the book.
Absolutely. Let's go for 5. I mean, the fact
I'm still recovering from 4.
But here's the other thing, though, chat, and the thing that you as our audience should know is that we're really, really proud of. I mean, we've been proud of all the previous editions. Oh, and look at that, Chuck Tomasi with a follow. Moron. Look, it's all here. It's all here, Chuck. If you need a copy, just let me know.
That little heart icon.
I'll sign it for you. Thanks for that like and subscribe. Okay, now I just got to get them to subscribe. Then it gets real, chat. But anyway, one step at a time, everybody. One step at a time. So, but going back to what we were talking about with these different books, one thing I'm very proud about with Podcasting for Dummies, particularly this 4th edition, is that it's in its 4th edition. So many books are out there. They get a first edition. They might get a second edition, and very few, particularly the ones that are put out by larger tech presses, do not get a third, let alone a 4th bite at the apple. And having the support of Wiley Publishing, having the support of the For Dummies people, and the way they have been working with it to make it as good of a book as it can be, I feel very, as Chuck said, I feel very blessed and I feel very fortunate. We've had and we've also had the opportunity to talk with a lot of new podcasters. I would say that's been some of the bigger bonuses of working with this. Chuck, were there any new podcasters that you discovered during this process? Anything at all? Or anyone at all, I should say.
Kind of with the process and even before that, going to podcast meetups back when we could meet up in person.
Oh yeah, that's I missed that too.
Podcasters challenge our assumptions, and I'm all about that. Make us check our facts and learn new things, because that's how we grow.
I mean, for myself, I have seen. I mentioned her earlier, Isolde Trachtenberg. She has absolutely latched onto podcasting, and she's been doing it for a while. But ironically, it was the interviews with me. She started to drift into streaming, and now she's starting to stream her podcast. And I'm like, good on you, girl. Good on you. And then there's this gentleman that I've mentioned. It's his show is called For the Love of Podcast. His name is Billy Samoa Saleeby. And I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. But Billy was when we started talking about podcasting, I could just see his eyes light up, and that's what I'm seeing with the new generation of podcasters. They are all just stoked to get behind the mic, and I'm like, okay, you've already got the first bit ready to go. It's a strong. That's a strong thing to keep. And you got to keep nourishing that flame. Fan podcasts are still extremely popular. And I also know too that there are some podcasts that work on a daily basis. They still work on a daily schedule, and some of them are hard to find. Because I do think there's some people that have been like, wow, this podcasting thing it's hard. So what is there anything else in the 4th edition that you can think of that's been a major change, Chuck?
I think we covered all the major changes.
Okay.
There's some subtleties. We went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and when I say we, I mean my wife.
Funny.
She did get a mention in the book this time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We made
Oh,
sure
yeah.
she got on the credits page because, putting in some long, serious hours and
That she did. That she did.
any a conversation about, does this sentence sound right to you?
Thank you, Miss Tomasi. So Nerd Girl did give a quick shout out that Mighty Networks is a good community. I'm not familiar with Mighty Networks. I don't know if you know about them,
We'll
Chuck, or
check it
not.
out.
But we will definitely have to do a deep dive and look into that. We're really excited about this new book. It is now, at the time of this episode dropping, it is currently out. So by all means, run out and get it. You can always take a photograph of, take a selfie of you reading the book while you're standing in line to vote. That would be awesome. That would be absolutely incredible. Think about it. You would not only be working to make your voice heard in democracy, but by the end of that wait, you'll be ready to launch a podcast. So hang on. There we go. That's the way to do it. But we would love to hear from you, chat. We would love to hear from you, our audience, through the podcast, also through the stream. If you want to join us live, best thing to do is to check and see if I'm going to be hosting another recording session of Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast, and that's at twitch.tv/TheTMonster. So that's one place you can find us. You can also drop us a voicemail or go through WhatsApp and drop us a voice or text mail from anywhere in the world at 703-791-1701. You can also come back and visit us at podcastingfordummies.com. Drop us a comment in the comment section of the episode that is currently listed, and you can go on ahead and be part of the next show. Drop us a question that you may have about what we've talked about, or if there's something we're going to be talking about in the future. So, again, remember, folks, Podcasting for Dummies is protected by a non-commercial, no-derivative, share-alike United States 3.0 license. You can find out more about that license at creativecommons.org. Thank you, everybody, for listening. On behalf of Chuck, I'm T. Morris. Pot on. That'll be the third episode. All right. Oh, Nerd Girl in my chat said that Mighty Networks is just starting out. It's an alternative to Facebook groups. Interesting. Alternative to Facebook, always a good thing.
We're in the process of taking Technorama, and the topic is Trek, to the VOG, the Voice of Geeks, Bobby Blackwood's.
Oh, neat.
Nothing. There's no monetary incentive. It's just to be part of a network and get the familial feeling again. It's almost along the same lines as Friends in Tech was once upon a time.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. I remember Friends in Tech.
Normal thing. You do your own thing, and we'll help you promote it. And that
There you go.
I'm all.
All right. So the next one is why 4th edition's podcast challenge. That's the note I have.
Yeah, the podcasting is hard, podcasting is easy discussion.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to keep going. We hinted on that in some of the earlier episodes.
We could do it. Yeah, we could definitely do a deep discussion in that one.
I did have a few other bullets in here that you hit on the last one about why, we're one of the top titles. We're one of the few that's had a repeat edition that's not self-published.
Yeah.
I don't know that we want to rehash that, but let's see where it goes.
Okay. And chat, thank you all very much for joining us. Certainly do appreciate it. Again, you're watching the T Monster, and I'm the T Monster. You can call me T Monster, call me Twitch Dad. Over to my left, this is Chuck Tomasi. This is the guy I've been working with for roughly a decade now. Jeez, time flies, man. More than that. Yeah, true, more than that. But Chuck has been with us since the actually he was mentioned in the first edition. Then I hired him to come on in with the second edition, and he's been with the book since then. And yeah, Chuck has been a delight to work with. We wrote Podcasting for Dummies together, and this last edition was there it is. That's the 3rd edition cover. 4th edition cover. The 4th edition cover you actually see in here, and it's a tiny little thing, but I'm really glad they kept it green. Because we've always had that green thing, but even better.
The first edition was purple.
What's the first edition? Oh, you're right. You're right.
And the other thing I like about this cover, maybe we should save this for for the show.
All right, let's save it for the show. But what we're doing right now, Chad, is we actually have a companion podcast that goes with the book. And right now what we're doing is we're recording the first 4 episodes of Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast, 4th season. And from this stream, we're going to get 4 different episodes, and we're going to take the video from this. I'm going to chop up the video while Chuck takes care of the audio, and then we will basically be having a podcast coming out. First episode will drop October 20th. Next one will drop on the 27th, and then November 3rd will be the episode we just did. So that's 3 weeks in a row of content, and then after Election Day, we're going to go to every other week. So it's going to be on a fortnightly schedule. All right. And again, please do not be shy in chat. If you have a question about podcasting, fire it off. Feel free. Do what Nerd Girl did. If you've got a recommendation you want to make about a piece of tech or something along those lines, feel free to ask as well. We tried very hard to make this stream an AMA kind of stream. Ask us anything. It goes back to something that happened last night. I wanted to share this with you, Chuck. This is actually pretty cool. Oh, I should also mention, Chuck was also one of the folks featured alongside me with the Humble Bundle in August.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, where and we were the top tier. Yeah. Yeah, they
I do have a sound effect for that. Oh wait, it's not on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've got this one over here. I don't know if you can hear it, but this is the one I've got.
Yes! More of that, please. More of that, my girl.
I love that clip. I don't know if look, I am not a motorhead, but I'm telling you, Chuck, you and Donna have got to watch Ford v Ferrari. It is such a good movie. I think the reason I love it so much, they let Christian Bale be Christian Bale. I mean, he uses his proper accent, and
right.
and he is absolutely, he is off the hook. I absolutely love him. And then you got Matt Damon, and I have no idea if Matt Damon really is Southern, but man, he puts on a Southern drawl, and it's just a really good. It's just one of those good movies. It's just people are surrounded by all these. Oh, you know who plays young? Oh, and yeah, in Ford v Ferrari, the Punisher himself plays young Lee Iacocca. John Bernthal plays Lee Iacocca, and he's great. He's great. I loved him, man. All right. One more episode to go, and then we're going. But as you can see, this is why I said we're going to need more than just a couple of hours. Oh, that's right. Matt Gaiman is from Boston. He is from Boston. Goodwill Hunting, all that. You're absolutely right. He is a Boston guy. Well, his accent's fantastic. His accent is fantastic. I loved him in that movie. All right. You ready to go, Chuck?
My clock back up here.
All right, yeah, I'm getting my clock in here as well. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Remember, don't be shy in chat. If you've got a question about podcasting, doesn't matter how basic it is. We love that interaction. We love that interaction, everybody. And if you have any questions about this, yes, I earned that this morning. 13.1 miles. Let's go. All right. You all set?
Ready.
Here we go. Oh, you're going to bring us in on this one.
Yes.
All right. Fourth episode in 3, 2.
Well, hello once again. This is Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast. My name is Chuck Tomasi, and as always, I'm joined here by
T. Morris. How you doing, everybody? Great to have you with us.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for, hopefully you're one of our loyal readers as well. And the 4th edition of Podcasting for Dummies is out. Go find it wherever you find your favorite books, whether that's online.
This answers all the unanswered questions of the previous editions. This is episode 4.
Who had questions?
Well, Sharky just said that we're inspiring him, so you're welcome.
Oh, wonderful.
That's what we want to hear. Thank you, Sharky.
Our job here is done.
All right.
That's
Thank
all.
you. See ya. No.
This episode is a close tie-in. It's a nice follow-on to the last one. In the last episode, we said we were talking about what's new in the 4th edition, and this one we'd like to go into more of why do we even need 4 editions?
That's true.
You have to remember we've been doing this for 15 years. The first
15.
edition came out in 2005.
15 years. Jeez.
Naturally, the technology. I have seen people's kids grow up and go to college while podcasting. It's getting.
I know,
scary.
right? I know, right? Right?
It's like, what?
Well, I mean,
I still have audio clips from when your kid was little.
well,
and
hey,
could barely talk.
dude, what about our show intro? That clip is a clip of my daughter, Sunny. That is a clip of her. One of the first words she learned was podcast.
Oh,
I think she's 2, maybe 3. She's definitely if she's not 2, she's 3. But that what a podcast! I mean, I'm like, oh my god, my child.
So yes, 4 editions because, as we mentioned in the previous episode, lots has changed. Technology has changed. Workflows have changed. Even the terminology has changed of what is a podcast. And if you'd like, go back and listen to that. If you haven't, then shame on you. Go back and listen to it anyway.
Right.
We feel, as we said in that last episode, very humbled, very honored to be asked to come back and do this because not too many books on podcasting get a 2nd edition, and here we are on the 4th going, wow, there's something to this. And given the current situation as we record this, a lot of people staying home and, hey, I need a new hobby, or I've got some time on my hands, or a number of reasons why there's this uptick in content creation and podcasting and video streaming. And that's a whole nother topic that we already discussed.
And that's something that has developed over this span of 15 years of what you and I have been doing. I mean, streaming was. I remember the first time someone introduced me to a streaming service, and it was a nightmare. And I'm like,
Ustream.tv?
No, it was live stream. It was live stream.
We took Ustream. We had live
Ustream. No, it was Ustream. You're right. It was Ustream.
Yeah. But there was no online chat like you have today with YouTube or Twitch or anything. We bolted in. We created a dedicated web page with I think it was an IRC channel in iFrame.
Oh my god, an IRC channel.
And it worked.
Oh
we
my
had
god.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. That
Held
was
together with chicken wire and a prayer. I mean, but the thing was that when, back then we didn't have the bandwidth. I mean, I think at one point we were still. I think at one point we were still talking in the first edition. We mentioned dial-up. Dial-up. I mean, it's that kind of. That's how quickly. Well, that's how quickly the technology of what we've been doing has changed.
Upload speeds back then. I mean, if you had broadband, the upload speeds were never really more than maybe 1 meg, 1.5 meg.
Exactly.
And what today, like 5 to 6 to hold up a good stream?
It's crazy. No, it's no. No. See, yeah, that's the other thing too. In the past, like between the time of me getting Twitch for Dummies published, I can assure you there have been plenty of ISPs that are going, oh wait, this streaming is a thing. So are you a streamer? Here's a nice package, and suddenly you're just like, ooh. And meanwhile I'm like, well, it took you long enough to get to this point. But that is the demands of, and I remember when COVID first started shutting down all these different things, I remember hearing another streamer, terrific guy, one of the founders of GCX, guy by the name of K Magic 101. He basically said, if the ISPs, just to be candid, if the ISPs don't shit the bed, we will keep it together as a society. So let's be honest. So right now, Comcast is part of the duct tape that is holding together humanity. I mean, let's just cross our fingers.
Oh, I believe it. And we had the same concerns about Zoom. Could they scale? The video conference vendor, because a lot of people were transitioning.
Oh yeah.
They were really an underdog just a couple of years ago. I remember walking through the San Jose airport and they had a big billboard there and it said Zoom. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe they'll take over WebEx or GoToMeeting at some point.
Right.
Oh no, the dominant player and large part and thanks. But just look at their stock price, it's like quadruple.
Yeah. But I mean, and granted, while Drafty, just said, and he just dropped this in chat. Yes, here's a nice streaming package, fine print, data limit, and you got to, now you're starting to see people read the fine fine print and all that. Yeah, I mean, and And it is amazing though how this technology has just in leaps and bounds how it's evolved. And yeah, the fact that podcasting books, when you find books on podcasting, you find that the ones that are self-pubbed, usually, yes, they're the ones that get brand new editions. The self-pub ones are also, though, the ones that they're self-pubbed. So, at any time, the author can go, yeah, I'm going to do a second edition or a third edition or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's if they want to even get around to it.
Take me with you?
Then you've got Podcasting for Dummies, which we were told by our editor, Steve Hayes. He basically said to us, "Yeah, we've never seen a book rally like this," and I'm
a bit of a data whore, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, but every Monday, part of my Monday morning routine is go to Amazon, check and record the numbers on Podcasting for Dummies. How has it been doing? Where is it on this category and that category? Unfortunately, they just rearranged their categories about a month ago.
Right.
Now I got to track new metric. It's kind of like, how do you track the survey results when you keep changing the survey questions? But that's another topic for another show.
Right.
And we have been doing consistently well.
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely blown away at how well this book has been selling, while others continue to bubble up and out of the top 10 in webcasts and that kind of thing. We're pretty darn consistent.
And I think part of that, I think part of the reason why is I go back and I do go back to Twitch for Dummies on this as well, is that our books, Podcasting for Dummies, Twitch for Dummies, these are not books, and we have been categorized as such. These are not books that we say you're going to get rich quick. You're going to become famous because of podcasting or because of Twitch. And whenever somebody makes that accusation towards me, I go, you obviously have not read these books. Because in both, one of the many things that both books share in common is a section goes, don't quit your day job. Because, you're not going to get rich quick doing podcasting or streaming or both. But what we have always focused on is, if you're passionate about this, then yes, pursue it. We're not about monetization. It might be one of the reasons why we don't get invited to these marketing events, because everyone's looking for the monetization. I'm like, yeah, but your podcast stinks. Your podcast sucks. And what we focus on is, if you want to put on a good podcast, this is what you need to do. And
we've even got a sidebar in there about how you will get rich in other ways.
Yes.
The networks you build, the skills you learn, it's just it grows and grows. And I feel very fortunate to be able to take this hobby that I stumbled upon in 2004, and now it is the core of my day job.
Yeah.
It really is. I am just cranking out the videos and podcasts and audios, and my boss says, wow, that's wonderful.
And I do. I think that watching how people start a podcast and they let it evolve and the way they pursue it. I'm blown away by that. I'm blown away by people who come to me and they go, yeah, because of your book, we're podcasting now and we love it. One of the stories that we tell in the book is when I first, and this was, man, I'm trying to remember when this was. This might have been 2009, maybe 2010. I show up at an author event, and this is when I first met Nick and Stacia Kelly. And for those of you who are in chat, Nick and Stacia Kelly. Cyber Wolf is one. The other one is the Rev 3 dude. And you also know Nick and his son Brandon from Happy Hour from the Tower. But this is when we first met them. And I show up with an H4 plugged into two MXLs. And Nick is just staring at these shiny toys. And I said, would you be okay if I recorded this for a podcast? And Nick and Stacia were like, we have no idea what that is, but go ahead. Great. So we record the and it was a panel about collaborating couples. And we had a blast with Nick and Stacia at this event. And we said, look, we'd love to have you come over sometime and record from our home. And they walked in here, and Nick was like, "Oh my God," because now, granted, my studio is a pale in comparison compared to that guy's, what I call Darth Vader's bathroom. Because man, there's everything in his studio. He's even got the tent, that Technorama tent, which I'm envious of.
And there's more coming.
Exactly, of course there is. But I mean, I've got this little area of, and every time I've done a Zoom interview, people have been like, "Holy cow, you're wired!" And I go, "I wrote Podcasting for Dummies. It's my thing. It's my jam." So anyway, so I'm doing all this stuff. And we get Nick and Stacia in here, and again, they had no idea what a podcast was, but because of me, now the two of them have got 3 podcasts just based around their family. And then Stacia, she runs bodybuilding shows, and she's now starting up a podcast with her partner where they market bodybuilding shows.
It's a great way to reach out to your customers or get new customer share. I mean, it's a wonderful communication device, like any newsletter or email blast or whatever. Think of it that way. As if you've already got an established business and you want to leverage podcasting, wonderful marketing tool.
Sure,
wonderful.
But one of the things that I remember we talked about when we were putting the 4th edition together, and I remember it was a hill I was going to die on with you, because you were like, "I think we need to rephrase this." And I said, "What is it?" It's this phrase right here, T. You say, "Podcasting is easy, but podcasting is hard."
Yeah, actually, my wife caught that because I was just in the trees kind of at that point.
Yeah.
And she said, "Now, what do you want it to be? Is it easy or is it hard?"
And I remember you came to me and you said, "T, we need to change that." I'm like, "No, we're not." And I think I was you were like what? I mean, Chuck actually saw me get a little like, "No, we are not changing it."
Your exact words were, "This is the hill I will die on." And then once you explained it to me, it was perfectly clear.
Yeah,
it's easy to get started podcasting.
It is so you can
technology,
seriously.
Getting a hosting provider. It's a checklist.
As a matter of fact, somebody we haven't given a shout out to that we should have given a shout out to, like all the way back in the first episode. The folks over at Libsyn, Rob Walsh.
Yes.
Could not have been more helpful to us in the 4th edition of Podcasting for Dummies. He was phenomenal, and what he does over at Libsyn, they're like, "Look, we'll get you podcasting within 5 minutes. If you've got a recording, boom, we'll set you up."
Yeah.
So yeah, podcasting's a piece of cake.
And the flip side of that is podcasting is hard.
Hard. It's real hard, Lieutenant Dan. Harder than shrimping, Lieutenant Dan. I mean, it just and so okay. So kick us off. Where do you think, Chuck, podcasting is hard?
It's hard to continue to find the time to make it a priority and carve out that time. It's difficult to continue to find content, as you may have run out of your pipeline at some point. I try to keep mine in all of my properties plentiful, at least one episode in advance, if not several. It's hard to keep abreast of the technologies. Hey, try this thing called Discord. Why? Wait, no, I'm comfortable in my workflow. Don't mess with it.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot of continual education that goes on in podcasting.
I mean, going back to Twitch, I had a buddy who I've had on the podcast before. His name is Matt Drake. He also went by It's Ord on Twitch. He's now Hats of Matt on Twitch. And for years, he was like, "T, you're a podcaster. Twitch is just begging for you to come. I mean, come on, man. You got to get on this platform." And I fought it because I was like, I don't have time. I do not have time for a new platform. And then I tried it out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm hooked. I'm effing hooked.
You came out to Phoenix for the launch of 3rd edition. He stayed in my guest house, and my bandwidth just kind of, I'm trying to get my day job done, and he's watching Twitch all day, sucking up my bandwidth.
Sorry, bud.
That's when I upgraded to the unlimited, no capacity, gigabit download. And we've been there ever since, which is good because.
But that was that weekend. But I remember. But I also remember that weekend. You were like, T, what are you doing in here? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything salacious or anything, as far as you know, but I am watching Twitch, and we started talking about streaming, and I was brand new at it. I mean, this was 2017, and I had been streaming for roughly a month at that time, and
I didn't get it until you came out here of what is the draw of watching someone else
Right.
play a game.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I'd rather play the game than
Sure.
watch somebody playing the game.
Absolutely.
And then you brought the the light bulb went over my head. It's like, these guys know what they're doing and they're entertaining. I went, wait, I'm a subject matter at something.
And I tell you something. Since
Bring
then,
that.
since that time, I've been doing. Well, I'm doing this. I'm streaming my podcasting,
Yep.
which has been a huge boon. On top of that, I started doing cooking streams, and the cooking streams. The last cooking stream was an absolute riot. The last cooking stream I did was it was me and Pip, and we were doing a wing off, and we made it. We wound up. We did it as a charity stream for No Kid Hungry, and we wound up raising like $75 for No Kid Hungry. But it was a short stream. But basically, I was doing Danny Trejo's recipe. Pip was doing Snoop Dogg's recipe, and we did a head-on-head wing off, and then it ended. The stream ended very quietly because it was me, Sonny, and Pip, and we're all just gnawing on wings, just going, "Yeah, this is very good. Thanks for coming, stream. Good night." You know, I mean, but that's.
You've inspired me to start doing a stream while I'm cooking a Blue Apron package or something.
No, it's great. No, people love it because people will ask you, wait, what kind of flour are you using? Hey, what does that do? What does this do? And then people start asking you about all the different stuff. The hardest part, I think, about doing the cooking streams has been the placement of the cameras. But it is so much fun to do. So much fun to do. But yeah, I mean,
that the camera placement reminds me of back in April, COVID hit, people are
Right,
staying home.
right.
I thought, I've got this hardware and software and the basic skills to do the streaming. I'm going to start a karaoke podcast.
Yeah.
A karaoke stream. So again, my naming is not that imaginative. I called it Saturday Night Karaoke. It's pretty self-explanatory what
there you
happens
go.
there.
No problem. No problem.
We're
But I
only
mean-
now getting around to naming the club, and I dug out a couple extra webcams, and I've got 3 camera placements. So during the show, you'll see, cut to stage right, cut to stage left. Here's the center, and
That's how it
even
starts.
turn the backgrounds so they look like they're in aspect to the rest of the thing. So there's a lot of fun that goes on in that as well.
And that is part of what you and I talked about 3 years ago. Even after the first month, I was just like, I think I'm starting to figure out this whole streaming thing. And part of it, like for example, I mean, perfect example is me playing. I'm currently playing the game The Last of Us Part 2. And people are like, why is it taking T so long to play this game? And there's a couple of things. One, I'm only playing it once a week. I'm only playing it once a week because I call it the Friday Fun Run, where I play something other than the game that I usually play during the week. Second thing is I'm only playing it in blocks of 3 to 5 hours. There's over 80 hours of gameplay in this. So it's taking me a little longer. But then adding to that, I will pause it. And then I will give commentary about the writing, because this game is a writing masterclass. It is, as a writer, I am eating up this game because there's so much good storytelling and character development. And this is, it is way too good of a video. We do not deserve this video game. It is that good. And and that to me is part of the appeal of Twitch. It shouldn't just be about the video game. It should be about the personality and what you bring as a Twitch streamer. And I know we're getting off topic, and we're bringing it back to how podcasting is hard, because where I think the difficulty of podcasting is that there is no magic formula to make a podcast work. And we were talking about time, and and we talk about this in the book. We talk about time. It is a time sink. So is streaming. They're both time sinks. But you'll hear people say, well, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent with your podcast. And it is funny too how the things that you and I heard as podcasters about 10 years ago, that's what streamers are saying now. And now they're starting to sound like how we sounded 5 years ago, when I'm hearing a lot of experienced streamers say, yeah, the market of streaming is saturated now. And I'm sitting there going, yep, been there too. Been there too. Strap in, bucko. It's going to get bumpy.
Tip I can give, I mean, when we say podcasting is hard for all these various reasons, the biggest tip I can give you to keep that passion alive, to keep that spark going so that you want to get in front of that microphone every time, instead of going, oh my God, I gotta write show notes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That will creep in.
It will.
Or,
It will.
hey, the kids are busy this night. I can't record this night. My biggest tip to you is keep your workflow as seamless, as automated as possible. You will find tips and tricks as you learn and evolve how to shorten that cycle. Hey, if I pre-produce this script or this clip, then I don't have to say these words every time at the front and end of the show. Okay, boom, there. I've just shortened things up, and because trust me, there are going to be days when you can't spit out 2 words to go. This show is This show is Creative Commons. I can say this. You will have those days, right? The other thing is, if we're talking about streaming, one of my favorite new toys is, well, I've had it for about 6-8 months, is the Stream Deck.
And
And
he has the large one. I have Stream Deck. I have deck envy. I
had the 15-button standard one for about a month. I went, this ain't cut. I need more buttons. Okay.
I mean, and you know what?
Little tricks like that, because now I don't have to remember what hotkeys, what keyboard I'm using, because I've got 2 or 3 keyboards spread around this studio going, I'm typing on the wrong thing. And
going back to the technology thing, I just learned last month, I learned, wait a minute, I can make profiles with this?
And folders. Profiles and folders.
And folders, yeah. I'm just like, oh, wait a minute. And now
you just extended it beyond 15 keys.
Yeah. I mean, now I've got different keys in here, and then
I don't think the Stream Deck made it in the book for some reason.
No, it didn't. Okay.
Everybody I've talked to that does streaming gets one of these like 2 weeks later.
Oh no, Stream Deck is in Twitch for Dummies, but it wasn't in Podcasting for Dummies, mainly because to me, for podcasting, that is a slightly more advanced tool.
I would beg to differ. I use it as my soundboard.
Right. I mean, and I think that we already had so much in there. We already had so much in the book. There were, and I was like, okay, and here's a good example of the tough calls we made. We could have done a deep dive into Stream Deck and how it works. Like Sharky just said, I feel like I'm not using it to its full potential. But one of the things that I think that that we were kind of struggling with is, okay, we can do that, or we can do a nod to some of the original podcasters that are still podcasting.
Because we should have had that in our last episode about what's new and what was added. Maybe second or third episode should have had that, because we wrote that last chapter. Was it chapter 20 in this?
Chapter 20. It was chapter 20. We wrote it for the 3rd edition.
We wrote it for the 3rd edition, but got cut because of page count. We said, well, we had a little, not a microscope, but a process running in the background going, what can we cut out of this book? So chapter 20 back.
And we were already doing a dramatic change, bringing in a streaming channel.
Yeah.
And the thing about Stream Deck and is, for me, I would not say, okay, when you're going out, you're gonna get a mic, you're gonna get some good headphones, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. Stream Deck is almost like I would say that's like a luxury.
It is a luxury.
I mean, here's an example.
Optimization.
I have the analogy, and this is the analogy that will resonate with all tech nerds out there. If you're going to build a home theater system, you're going to want to invest in the speakers and the TV and all that.
Yep.
If you want to get the Hue lighting system, wait a while. You're going to have to save up for that. That's the way I look at the Stream Deck. The Stream Deck is the Hue lighting system.
I was going to go more with the Logitech Smart Remote. You know,
Yes,
where
that
it's
too.
really-
That too. That
instead
too.
of 4 or 5 remotes for the sound system and the TV and the DVR.
Menengay would
It's-
not get one of those. Oh God, it drove me nuts. Anyway,
He had a Logitech. Yeah, he had one.
he
of the older
eventually got one. He eventually got one. The first time I came to stay at that house, I'm just like, how many remotes do you need?
ones. I think half
All
of
right.
them are still here.
We're spiraling down the rabbit hole, chat. Let's get back to
It's not a necessity for a podcast.
Right.
It's not a necessity for a streamer. It's effectively keyboard macros.
but
And you can tell a button to do 3
Right.
or 4 things, like change to this camera, switch the background, put up this title, or start streaming and recording at the same
Yeah.
time. We didn't really talk too much about that, but part of my process when we were talking in the last episode about having a backup plan, or when you download your file and you can
Yeah.
strip the audio over there, I do the reverse. And I record while I'm streaming in case the stream blows up or
Right.
I'm having technical issues. I've got a local MP4 that I can go, well, here, you might have missed it live, but you're not missing it entirely.
Right. And again, this is part of why podcasting is hard. And it also can get very frustrating when you are being consistent and you're creating content on a regular basis and you've got your workflows all done and then the problem is that but my audience isn't growing or I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of people in here. And I tell people then if you're in it for the numbers, then I got some bad news for you. Maybe you shouldn't be podcasting. And that's a hard decision to make because you've just invested in all this equipment, and then you're like, but my numbers aren't where they're supposed to be. It's the one thing I hate the most about streaming. You have to contend with the numbers all the time. The rest of it, podcasting, I really don't pay attention to my analytics.
Yeah,
Because
I think the last time I looked at numbers was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I-
exactly.
Aside from work, because I do need to show some
Work is different. Yeah, work is different.
corporate stuff is different than the personal.
But for yourself, I mean, if someone comes up to me and says, well, I don't listen to Happy Hour from the Tower because there are better players out there I can listen to. I'm like, that's great. Because that's not the kind of podcast we're doing. We're doing a podcast for the love of it. And
It's a lot like, as you were talking, I thought, this sounds an awful lot like marriage. After years go by, you're going to have a different attitude, and
Yeah.
you're going to have, this kind of, what is it? Familiarity breeds contempt kind of thing.
right.
And you have to stop periodically and go, what is it that attracted me to this person in the first place? What is it I fell in love with?
Biggest difference, though.
Podcast, ask that to periodically ask yourself about that podcast. Why did I start doing this? I
Right.
did this because I love Destiny 2, or I love talking about Star Trek, or keep that spark alive. Now it's getting more of a therapy session at this point.
Well, no, I was just going to say the biggest difference, though, between marriage and podcasting is that in podcasting, multiple companions is a thing. It's okay. It's fine. You can
Okay to say goodbye.
Yeah. It's okay to say goodbye, but if you want to be polyamorous in a podcast, you're fine. but it is. It is a. This is why podcasting is easy, but it's hard. It is a commitment. And it's when people say to me, and I've heard it said not just about streaming, but about podcasting as well. When they say, well, podcasting is an easy thing to do. I'm like, really? Are you doing it? Well, no. Why? Well, because I don't have the time. I'm like, well, then it's not that easy now, is it? And and whether it's and especially on the corporate level, I admire the fact that Chuck has managed to get ServiceNow on board with that, because it was the one thing that I was really frustrated about when I was doing my first full-time job, is that they wanted a podcast, and I'm like, great, what do you want it to be on? Well, we don't know, but that's why we hired you, but we want it because it's cool. And I'm like, okay, that's great too, but we need to have content for it. And then it became complicated. Because people think that podcasting is a one push thing. You start putting out episodes, the next thing you know, you're the next slow burn, or you're the next Joe Rogan Experience, or you're the next Michelle Obama podcast. And I'm like, okay, first off, a couple of things. One, slow burn is backed by BuzzFeed. Two, Joe Rogan used to be on an NBC sitcom, and then was the host of a reality TV show. Thirdly, Michelle Obama was the first lady.
They've already got their following.
They got a following, and this is just going to amplify it all the more. But when you're starting off, you got to look at it as a long game. And being a long game, your heart's got to be in it. And if it's not in it, then I don't know what else to tell you. But I'd be the first one to say it. Don't do it for the numbers. Don't do it to get rich quick. If you actually make where have I made money the most as a podcaster and as a streamer?
The books.
The books. It's a bit like it really is a bit like professional sports, because the professional athletes really don't make their money from their contracts with the teams. They make their money on the endorsements and all the other the other side hustles. So yeah, I mean that's the God's honest truth. So why do they play? They play because they love it. They play because they love it. I got somebody with a minor. Rogan is also one of the faces of MMA announcing. I did not realize that.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. But agree, he was also famous before the podcast. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And I mean, Felicia Day has started streaming now, and Twitch is all over it. Of course, because she's Felicia freaking Day. And
no, that's not to say that you have to have a following before you can launch.
No, you don't. And that's
I've seen a number of podcasters grow into that success. In fact, it's been very, very entertaining to watch Grant Bachoko's career.
Yeah. Grant.
Or what Astronomy Cast has done. Oh my gosh. They read off a small section of their Patreons every week.
I still have a vocal crush on Dr. Pamela Gay. And I wear it on my sleeve. I hope that doesn't weird her out. I respect Dr. Pamela Gay, but I have such a crush on her voice.
She wrote the foreword for the 4th edition.
That she did. We love you, Dr. Gay. Thank you very much for your time and attention to us. All right.
Sounds like a good sending note.
That's a great place to close. It's a great place to close it. So
if you want to find us, did you have a closing?
No, you go ahead. Take us out.
Okay. If you want to find us, you can find our podcast and the related articles at podcastingfordummies.com. Find our books anywhere you find books online and in stores. You know where those places are. We're not going to list them all out here for you. Find our podcast wherever you find your podcast, whether that's Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple. Again, you know where they are. We're out there. Or if you can always go right to the site and play it there, podcastingfordummies.com. We want to hear you, your questions. We want to hear your voice on our voice line, whether it's through WhatsApp or traditional mobile terrestrial. Does anybody have a landline anymore? But if you do, call up 703-791-1701. That's 703-791-1701, as in the Enterprise number. And you can also find this stream. We will be doing these live streams to record massive amounts of podcasts all at once. T and I have been sitting in this chair for at least the last 3 hours.
Yeah, and I did a half marathon this morning. Right now, my legs are cramping up so bad you have no idea.
We're gonna let him go.
I need ibuprofen.
You want to watch us do this raw, unedited, and beautiful, warts and all? Twitch.tv/The T Monster. Over at Twitch, you can just look for The T Monster. Do like I did. Follow, subscribe, and learn more about that. Podcasting for Dummies, the companion podcast, is protected by Creative Commons, non-commercial, no derivatives, share alike, United States 3.0 license. You can find out more about that over at creativecommons.org. For T and me, we look forward to talking to you next time. Until then, pod on.
That's 4 episodes recorded. Woo! 4 episodes recorded, and we kept them all around 30 minutes, roundish. I have. This is like my 3rd water since this morning. I've had 3 of these puppies. Now, thank you, Sharky and Starman. Congratulations. Hope it was a good run. Minor, thank you very much for poking your head in here. I do appreciate it, and I really do hope that everybody enjoyed this behind the scenes look of podcasting for dummies and this particular stream and just coming together. When we do it again next week, I'm looking to have it be a little more polished. This has been a lot of fun, as always. Chuck, was there anything else you wanted to cover, whether on stream or off stream afterwards?
Thank you for letting me invade your channel.
Oh, dude, come on. As my stream will attest, my stream works at the service of others, which sounds a lot better than my stream services other people. That just sounds even worse. So okay, so but see, now here's the thing. Here's the thing, Starman. It's funny you missed you missed an earlier conversation about it, but we will be talking about 2 viewers. You said you got 2 viewers, and the thing you got to look at that is that's 2 more viewers that you didn't have earlier.
Right.
We all
and
start
they'll
there.
talk to people. They'll share. They will share.
It is your first step into a larger world. The interaction will come. It's just one step at a time. And but we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about it in a later episode. All right, Chuck. Again, thank you very much for everybody in stream. If you got any questions about what's happening in my stream during the week, you can always check my socials. Let me go ahead and drop my socials in here. And you can expect to see these in my schedules. I post my schedule on a regular basis, both on my channel, and I also post it on Twitter. Those are usually the 2. Oh, and my Discord. This is my Discord, but on the next show, Chuck and I are going to probably we're going to work on developing the Podcasting for Dummies Discord, which is actually part of Technorama's Discord. And we're going to go on ahead and spruce that up and have that looking pretty. All right, everybody. I'm just going to auto host do its thing. Thank you all so much for being part of this inaugural 4th edition stream. This is the first time we ever done a stream of this. We appreciate it. You guys have a great Saturday. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Bye.